Coffee is always roasting, something good for you.
I'm Bridget Condon with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. The Patriots continue maintaining their defensive line continuity, agreeing to terms with tackle Devon Godshaw on a 2-year contract extension worth up to $21 million, including $16.5 million guaranteed, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. Meantime, Lions defensive end John Kaminsky is expected to miss 5 to 6 months after suffering a torn MCL at practice this week. Rams offensive guard Jonah Jackson suffered a bruised scapula and is expected to miss up to 6 weeks. Jackson signed a 3-year, $51 million deal with the Rams this offseason. And the NFL is moving closer to replacing the chain gang with new technology to measure line to gain after Sony was named the NFL's official technology partner this week. The league will test Sony's Hawkeye technology during the upcoming preseason, but most likely won't be ready for full implementation until the 2025 season. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this: if something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.com.
News Talk 1290 Coil is your radio home for Omaha Stormchasers baseball, proud AAA affiliate of the Kansas City Royals. Tune in to hear every pitch, every hit, and every out as the Chasers play at Warner Park and across the International League in 2024. With the voice of the Omaha Stormchasers, Nick Batters, on News Talk 1290 Coil.
The Stormchasers travel to Rochester tonight. First pitch scheduled for 5:45. You can hear all the action on your home for the Stormchasers 1290 Coil.
Howdy, Greg Wagner joining you from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Time now for another Nebraska Outdoor Update. Hey, planning a trip to a state park? One of Nebraska's 76 state parklands? Excellent. But don't forget your state park permit, money for camping fees and other activities, a fishing permit if you want to wet a line, and oh yeah, a 6-foot leash for Scruffy, your pet. Thank you, and we hope to see you out there. By the way, you can get all kinds of information on the Nebraska State Parklands through the Game and Parks website. That web address is outdoornebraska.gov. Are you going fishing? I thought so. For proper catch and release fishing this season to ensure fish survival, I want you to remember these important things. Land the fish as quickly as possible. Handle the fish as little as possible. Keep the fish in the water as much as possible. And release the fish as fast as possible. Enjoy your fishing experience, and we'll see you out there. I'm Greg Wagner with Nebraska Game and Parks.
Honey, I'm so excited about the Nebraska Lottery's Lotto America Ticket Snap promotion.
Really?
Yeah. When you buy a Lotto America ticket with the All-Star bonus by August 5th and enter the voucher number online, you could win Nebraska football Skybox season tickets or other great football prizes. Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting you don't know a lot about football.
Well, the Skybox would be a great place to see whether they use the spread, shotgun, option, or I formation.
Lotto America top prize odds, 1 in 26 million.
Raid wants to know, what would you do if you could confidently face every day knowing you and your loved ones are protected? Would you sing along to your favorite song at the top of your lungs? Turn off the GPS and let your heart do the guiding. Go to the drive-thru and order one of everything. Feel the buzz of confidence of knowing you are protected with 65 years of insect science in your hands. Raid. Protection for everyone.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
1620 The Zone.
And Ian hits a high fly ball, deep center field. Back goes Friedel. Back toward the wall. That ball is gone. A 2-run homer for Ian Happ. Cubs lead 8-3. Base hit up the middle by Cody Bellinger. This is going to drive in 2 more runs. And it's an absolute rout here in Cincinnati. The Cubs now lead 13-3.
First pitch to Dubon. And Mauricio drives this one deep to left field. Back goes Reynolds. Looking up. See you later! Into the Landry's Crawford boxes. A pinch hit 2-run homer for Mauricio Dubon. And the Astros lead it 5-4.
He swings and hits this ball a mile. Deep left field. Headed for the second deck. It'll drop down below. A missile of a home run for Byron Buxton, and the Twins are on the board 1-0. Wow. 0-1 is crushed. Right center field for Wallner. That one's into the seats. It's a 2-run shot. And the Minnesota Twins lead it 6-3.
Thorpe delivers. Hermine smacks it deep in the air, left center field. Vargas races back, looks up, it's gone. Freddie Fermin delivers a 2-run homer into the second row of bleachers in left. 1-2. Pasquantino drills it high in the air, deep to right field. Sheets just watches it fly. Vinny Pasquantino launches a 2-run homer.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Good morning to you. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy here on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Gary is making his way in.
He'll have a story.
Power issues. It has been an eventful past 12-ish hours. In fact,
especially for you, Mr. Handley.
Yeah, me and many, many, many other people. 218,000 or 220, I guess. 220,000 at one point were without power in the Omaha Metro after last night's storm. Seen here just as of 2 hours ago, we got about 175,000 customers without power. That was as of right around 4 a.m. this morning. So, however you might be listening to us this morning, I got to say,
I don't know if we're on the radio yet, but we are on the stream.
We are
on TV.
I was checking in this morning, and
we're back.
We were on.
We're back. All right.
You got us on the terrestrial. You got us online. That is good stuff. But first and foremost, hoping everybody is okay. We're going to try to give you as much information on debris, tree drop off, all that stuff that we can. This one was a monster.
I got to call you back. We got cows.
Yeah, it was very, very. I'm surprised I didn't see any animals flying by our window.
Saw enough. I don't think you need to see any more flying from me.
Yeah, in the Bennington area, I think they had said we'd peaked at 112.
That's the wind, not the temperature.
As far
it was
as the
warm
wind
yesterday.
Man, and and usually when you see these things, it's maybe sustained for like 5 minutes. This was like easily 25 minutes of that type of wind.
What do you say? It's like a hurricane.
Yeah, it did. It looked like a hurricane. We were in the middle of making dinner. We made dinner a little earlier because we knew there was a storm coming. And I got to give my wife a lot of credit. She thought, boy, what we're hearing, we were watching the KTV's coverage.
Shout out, Jenny.
And my gosh, the leading edge. If I had to hear any more about the damn leading edge 3 times now this summer.
It's like a big fullback just plowing down I-80 towards us.
And gaining steam the entire time, gaining a lot of intensity with the wind. It was her idea. Like, let's make dinner a little early just in case the power goes out. And I'm like,
damn. See, they just know everything.
Power ain't going out. We're good. We didn't lose power during that crazy hailstorm that we had not that long ago, or during the tornadoes when they were about a mile and a half away from us. But yeah, we did lose it for a little bit. But as soon as I was in the middle of making a nice taco meal last night, homemade tacos.
All right.
And as soon as I got down browning the hamburger, putting the seasoning in, it got real. And
the sky got black. It was night.
Well, when you can just hear.
It was green too.
Nothing to major wind. And then immediately you look, you're like, what was that? What's going on? And it does. It looked like we were in the eye of a hurricane for a good 20, 25 minutes. Lot of
right front quadrant.
A lot of folks that are in the tree cutting industry are going to be very, very busy.
The roofers?
I have a feeling the roofers are going to be very, very busy again.
Shout out Higgy.
And people that fencing companies, I think, are also going to be very, very busy. But again,
We've had a summer here.
Well, it was kind of funny. We were talking about this. Gary brought it up that EF3 that took place at the end of April got upgraded to an EF4, and they just made that official on Monday. And talking about how it was really remarkable that only out of the entire storm, out of the entire tornado, that it felt like it was on the ground forever and made its way into Iowa, that there was one fatality given the timing of this event. I know people this was basically between 5 and 6 o'clock. So you're talking about rush hour, people getting home from work. I know your wife had to delay her exit from the building. I was talking to the afternoon guys and was trying to figure out I knew it was almost like a dumb question if they had lost power
Did
here.
they do their dumb debates? Because that would tie right in.
Well, it was kind of funny. They got frozen, like their screen got frozen. So Nick Grimm had to say goodbye and end the show. And I think at that point they were just like, okay, we just need to get the hell out of here but thank goodness.
Poor Bishop. Yeah. It's like, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You wait.
Yeah. So any information that we can pass along with any OPPD updates, again, a lot of it is going to be tree debris, drop-offs, a lot of that information. If there is any information with Red Cross, we will make sure we pass that along. I mean, a lot of this was the other thing, and you might have noticed too, Jimmy, driving in, I noticed there was a lot more cars making their way around because I think a lot of people are getting an early start to do some assessments and see what everything looks like. Driving in, I noticed right around Burke, completely dark right over the overpass of the expressway. That was dark. And then you get a little bit further up, then there's
at UNO, from there.
Then there's some electricity. Then you get through a series of lights that are not lit, of street lights. And then it's very random of this area doesn't, this area does, this area doesn't. But 220,000 at one point last night. And
that'd be the third largest city in Nebraska. What do you say about Memorial Stadium?
Yeah. Third largest one on a Husker game day. So
it ain't game day. Sorry.
It was bad.
The video game. There you go. There's a picture of a tree down. Because we are fair and balanced, as we said yesterday, and we like to be positive, I got a couple of positives to counteract your negatives, including Sharpie's negatives, and he'll tell that story even better when he gets here in a little bit. There's football on TV tonight.
Yes, there is.
So everyone rejoice. Also, it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day.
It is going to be
Upper
nice.
80s, sunny.
When we were outside figuring out what the hell we're going to do about the fence, and shout out to my neighbors. My gosh, this is our first time around our neighbors.
You're getting to know them.
Yeah, first time around our neighbors during these types of events. We've made friends with some really good people in our neighborhood, but I felt bad. Like they were ready to help right away. I'm like, guys, we're going to eat real quick. Can we go ahead and eat? We're going to eat, and then I'm going to text you. And yeah,
just like my grandpa would say, nothing you can do about it now. Might as well have a meal.
Yeah. They
let
hopped
the weather
to it.
blow through, and
man, it was pretty impressive. But I noticed that it was really nice last night.
Yeah,
it was
really nice right now.
Kind of breezy, but it was really cool. Yeah, it's like in the 70s right now too. So, I suppose there's that. Good on you, Jimmy, to bring
Mr.
us back to some
Positivity.
positives.
Yeah, that's me.
So yeah, I'm just kind of going through the OPPD assessment of the most recent information they've put out. Yeah, their top priority right now is ensuring the residents have access to safe drinking water and to ensure the overall health and safety of all the residents. I'm assuming there's a lot of priorities on. I'd like to think is that we're going by Children's Hospital that looked like it was up and running. So I remember it was when the U.S. Senior Open was here, and it was the day of Mike Schaefer's wedding. In fact, it was that night before. There was there was a pretty bad storm that came through, and again, it had a lot of wind, very similar to last night, and it knocked a lot of hospitals offline. The reason I know that is because we had to take the little guy in, and there were machines that were down. So yeah, what happened last night was I think even crazier than that. This was, did they call this, was this officially called the derecho?
I think this was the start of a derecho.
Derecho.
Yeah.
Am I saying
It was
that right?
definitely a windstorm, and OPPD is calling it one of their largest restoration efforts ever. So
Yeah.
that's really impressive. And you said 112. I even said last night on the phone when I was talking to my wife, I said, we just had about 100-mile-an-hour gusts because we had a couple things fall over. Nothing like yours. I mean, it was tiny stuff. We will recover. But yeah, it was a windstorm, and they're saying it is in terms of the power outages, the numbers, talk about a storm in July of 2021. And people will remember this, and you will remember this because you were in Lawrence that night on your way back up here, the big snowstorm the last weekend of October 1997.
Yes.
And it was raining and cold down there, but up here it was snowing like crazy, heavy, wet snow. And yeah,
you can hear tree limbs snapping. And that was
278,000 that day.
200 what?
Or no, it knocked out power to more than 130,000 that day, that night. And then the storm in 21 was 188. And yeah, last night it peaked around what do you say, 220, 2 something?
220,000.
At least,
and that's what they said, at least 220,000 without power in the Omaha metro.
Apparently there were big trees. Remember where we are, 50th and Capitol, there are a lot of old trees here. So they're heavy. They're the roots are in there. It's hard to move those trees.
Yeah.
Some of those trees were toppled over. So that's saying something. My point is these trees should withstand all of this. And the fact that the wind here and the storm was that bad really illustrates how bad it was here where we are.
I got to give a shout out to a neighborhood near 50th and Davenport. Since the power went out and they knew they were going to lose a lot of ice cream.
Yeah.
The neighbors and all of them, they all got together. They got on the porch and they had wine and ice cream because why not? You don't want to waste good ice cream, right?
That's not going to eat itself. So
you're not, I mean, it's going to be just sitting there without
no
the
power.
ability to cool it. So they were, I mean, there's a good smattering of about 10 to 15 people hanging out on a nice porch, drinking wine and having some ice cream. So you got to make the best of these situations. But yeah, I have not heard of any major injuries or worse. So again, given the timing of this thing, given the power of this thing, where at one point, I think I even heard Bill Ranby, they were contemplating whether there could have been a tornado sort of wrapped inside of some of the stuff that was going through Omaha. Now we know it did end up turning into some tornado warnings and tornadoes in Iowa, as that thing just made its way east, just continued to gain strength. But
I mean, I would have believed it. It was pretty wicked.
Yeah. I mean, it was a night. It was definitely a night. And we will update you on everything that we can as we get them. Again, I think a lot of assessments are going on as we speak right now. In fact, this is kind of interesting as I'm looking out of our window right now and the traffic just seems to be a lot more evident. It just seems like a lot of people are, okay, we're leaving early.
Don't want to get stuck at 8:00.
Yep. Not sure what things look like. You're going to get into the morning rush hour where you're going to have some street lights that are out. So you're going to have to do the old stop and go. I don't want to be the person. Usually this is the meteorologist that says this, might want to give yourself some extra time on the roadways, or Peter. And he's right. But yeah, you're going to run into a lot of those.
Just take the day off. That's what I said. Just take the day. It's going to be 89 degrees and sunny. If you have some stuff going on at home, some damage, or so you need to tend to that. If you were stressed out last night, you need to maybe lay at the pool, relax. Yeah, just take the day off. Tell them that the zone said you don't have to go to work today.
We'll sign it.
Yeah.
We'll sign it out. If you were like me, I got up a little earlier than normal too. Hey, you know what? You had starting at 3 a.m. You had Olympic golf going on. So that's soothing.
I was going to ask you if that's what you did since you were awake.
Yeah, I watched some Olympic golf, and Xander Schauffele, who I thought would be doing much better, was not doing well. Hideki Matsuyama was looking very, very good so far.
Good thing you didn't say Matsui.
Yeah, not Hideki Matsui, no. Coming up on the show, we've got a lot to get to, and we will talk sports. Again, we will.
We have lots.
If you got thoughts on your experience last night, feel free. You can do so any way you want. You can always hit us up on the 42-degree hotline. The source by your mom's house, that is 402-951-1620. There was a time that we would give you a toll-free number, but I don't think we need to do that anymore. But 402-951-1620. The Equitable Bank inbox, where they take banking personally. You can always email us. I am Handley at 1620thezone.com, Gary at 1620thezone.com. As Gary is making his way in right now, and Jimmy at 1620thezone.com. You can also hit us up on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Nick Handley 1620 and at Gary Sharp 1620. Yeah, I'm sure people have a lot of stories.
Steve sent a picture to us, and he lives, I think, out by me. Yeah. It was going green where he was.
Yep. Where you were like, oh, what is that? It's a big green blob. I think I see trees, but I can't really tell. But as Jimmy did mention, there is football tonight. We've got the preseason debut. I would like to say the debut of the Caleb Williams era, but that's not happening. Just the preseason debut of NFL 2024 with the Hall of Fame game Texans taking on the Chicago Bears. Also something that I will obviously be tuned in to watch Tyson Bagent do his thing, see if he can solidify the backup spot because he's going to get a lot of the reps. But we will talk Chicago Bears camp coming up at 8 o'clock with Mr. Jeff Dickerson. Oh my gosh, I just said Jeff Dickerson. I
won't tell him.
No, Jeff is unfortunately no longer with us. Jeff is my relationship to the guy we will be having on, Carmen DeFalco, who I used to talk to. Bear stuff. My gosh, that was just weird how that happened.
Just said Eric.
Carmen DeFalco of ESPN 1000. He will join us at 8 o'clock and prime us up for the Chicago Bears camp and tonight's game. Also going to be talking some college football. David Cobb of CBSSports.com covering college football and the SEC. He will join us at 9. We got Sip, we hope. Hope Sip is okay as well and no major damage out there at 8:30. He will join us then. And then, of course, we'll be talking to Brian Edwards at 9:45. And our guests and our lineup powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. When we come back, we'll get back into it. And again, anything that we need to pass along on info involving cleanup and power outages and all of that, we will keep you posted as best as we can as assessments continuing to take place. As we get things started here on a Thursday, it's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy, 1620 The Zone. Mornings with Sharp and Handley continues here on 1620 The Zone, 1620 The Zone TV, Zone TV, 1620zone.com. That was the other, I guess, silver lining of last night. We were, if you were listening to Unsportsmanlike Conduct, and you know that they went offline. They were still streaming, but did not have power. I got to say, I was not expecting to actually have the terrestrial side of things working this morning, as Gary Sharp is with us now, too. Driving in, I tuned it in. First thing I did as soon as I got in my car, I'm like, are we on? And we were. Yeah. And it was amazing. So I got to say, like, we got power right now, too. Did not think that would be the case. So there is hope. We will recover. But what a freaking night.
Yeah, I want to thank NRG Media because I brought like 6 devices to charge.
So you are without power.
Yeah, there's going to be power in my neighborhood for a while. I think this is... I heard you mention Schaefer's wedding.
Yeah.
So that was in my neighborhood, and that was the storm that knocked power out for 4 days.
Oof. And last night was worse, I believe.
We've had in the so there are it's the entertainment part of Exarban Village was back up and running last night. Like I noticed a lot because after the storm went through, I went out and it was like COVID again. Everybody was meeting their neighbors.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people that were like, oh, man, I need something to eat. So all the restaurants were open and bars were open. But the other side, where the neighborhood side is out of power. And it's kind of eerie because in the distance, I can see the top of the HDR building.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, my place is pitch black. So luckily, I had a phone charger that I had charged up, one of those mega.
Yep.
So... I want to thank NRG Media for allowing me to steal their power this morning. You may power my house for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
They're loaning it.
This is where I'm actually very happy that you're not someone who relies on air conditioning, because that would be obviously a problem.
Now. It is a little bit warm in my place.
Oh, what?
I thought you said you did it yesterday.
Because it's cool. It cooled after that thing came through. It cooled down nicely.
It seemed like it was kind of warm.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Of course.
If anybody is missing a tree, I have it on my balcony if you'd like to come pick it up. Not sure how it got there, but I will leave it for you.
Yeah.
The groundskeepers at Elmwood Park Golf Course going to be busy today.
Got a day? I used to do that. That used to be part of my, well, we never had anything like this, though, when I worked over at Elmwood. But
so the beauty of that course is all the trees, and they've taken quite the hit going back to that storm a few years ago. And this year, there are... I was driving along 60th, and you can see on 17, and there is trees everywhere on the course. So they're going to have a busy day. A lot of people are going to have a busy day, but I've never ever seen numbers like what OPPD initially put out, that 220,000 people in Omaha were without power.
Yep.
Were they down to 175?
Yeah, 175. That was as of, I think, 4 a.m. this morning. So. And it's so random. So when I was coming in off of the expressway, you'd see a wave of street lights, to your south and north, and then you would see nothing. And then even the expressway lights that would have been on at that time because it was still dark out, nothing over the overpass. And then you get over towards the West Roads area, you got lights. It looked like south and north had power. Regency area probably had power. Then you get further east, nothing. You got street lights that are out. The 90th and Dodge street light is working. And then you get further along and then nothing. It's so hit or miss right now.
Both of you guys have power, right?
Yeah,
we barely had a flicker.
But see, this is a crazy thing.
Thank you.
We lost. I was
thinking
shocked.
to be on Sunday.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yes, I did see. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
So we've had the tornado come pretty close to us since we've moved to Bennington.
Yeah.
Did not lose power. I think our internet went down for a little bit. That was about it.
We did lose that. That was rough.
The big hail episode where I essentially made it to the end of the street and ended up driving back. That we lost power for maybe 3 minutes. I mean, it wasn't even very long to even worry about. Last night, we actually did lose power for about 15 minutes. I know it's nothing compared to people who are in the dark still right now, but and then when it came back, it looked like it was going to go out again. It was just flickering on and off. And so it was never really stable for a good couple hours. It was just weird.
Pain.
I know, man. I know. I'm sorry.
I've done this before. So I've gone through 2 hurricanes And a little bit of yesterday was kind of like it felt like a hurricane.
Yeah.
The winds and the just sheets of rain and straight line wind. So I know how long you can keep food in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
You got about a good 48 hours because it's about 40 degrees.
Yep.
So I'm prepared for all of that. So good luck to the OPPD people that are out there working, because I do know some places they're going to have to clear debris before they ever get started. But man, that's an astonishing number.
Yep.
220,000 people in this community were without power. Here's the thing, and there's people that are, they realize that there's only so much you can do, and Mother Nature always wins. Is what the hell happened to the Omadome?
I know. Oh, the Omadome is it's crumbled.
Did Omadome decide to take off 2024?
Is it a winter only thing?
Well, I think
which I'd be okay with.
I was telling one of our neighbors yesterday. They he put out the grim outlook of, my God, if this is our summer, what's our winter going to look like? And I went back and I
do that.
Well, and I said, I think we're making up for the winter that we recently had, where we had that one real crazy first week in January.
Right, Rick Pitino was going to go outside and freeze to death.
Yeah, and then after that, it was fine. And so we're just making up for that, because I think the Omadome actually served us well pretty much from late January all the way through spring.
Yeah, it
collapsed
It's
after.
taken off. It's gone on vacation. Like, is it down on the A1A? Is it on the beach?
It's on Beachfront Avenue.
Because it's not doing its job. Okay.
No.
Where is the windbag? Where is the dry slot? Usually the Omadome takes care of those. We don't ever have to bring those into our lexicon. The Omadome sucks. Okay. You have failed miserably this spring and into the summer. And I don't know if we got to trade you. We got to put you in the portal, whatever. If we need like Bell Dome.
We just need to have a talk.
We need to have Doug Dome. You've been replaced by the whole Douglas County Dome.
We definitely do need to sit down and talk and find out what's going on there.
Mild and dry this winter is the forecast, by the way. So take that for what it is.
Oh, okay.
That's what.
As of August 1st. By the way, it is August 1st.
Yeah, there will be football this month.
Football tonight.
So I got to give a traffic update because this impeded my progress. If you are, and this Dundee neighborhood is beautiful. There are some very beautiful and older homes with some trees that I imagine are over 100 years old. There is a tree. You're not going to be able to access 52nd between Farnham and Leavenworth, because there is a tree that I would imagine is 100 plus years old that was picked up and put in the street.
Good Lord.
Now it's still upright. It's not laying down. It is upright. I took a picture of it driving in. So you're going to have to work around that.
It's upright. Doesn't even make sense.
Is that like a roundabout now?
So a lot of trees I saw, because after it went through, I walked around my neighborhood, and my neighborhood is very tree friendly.
Yeah.
People like Arbor Day. People take the day off in my neighborhood for Arbor Day to plant a tree. And they've been doing it seems, forever, because there are so many trees in my neighborhood. But as I was walking around, I noticed more of the older trees actually had been uprooted, not knocked over or sliced in half. Some were uprooted, and then they were laying on their side. But this tree was uprooted. It looks like it came from the sidewalk, and then it was just dropped in the middle of the street.
Yeah, that's...
So a lot of chainsaws will be going on in this community. A lot of people will be trying to scam you. I hope you are smart enough to realize who is a scammer and who is real, because there are plenty of reputable people that do that for a living that can be found easily if you have internet access. So I noticed in our little neighborhood here where the radio station is, some guys, the house where the murder was.
Oh, yeah.
That actually thought about buying. It's actually a really nice house, but somebody got murdered in it. And that's
you don't want that.
Yeah.
I could get you a good deal, though.
I'm never going to move into an apartment where somebody's been murdered or a house. I did look at a place in Lincoln once, shock, that somebody had been murdered in
Cramtown.
And there was like a little spot of blood on the carpet.
Oh.
Yeah. I found out that you don't necessarily have to disclose that. That was back in the day. So we had somebody that got murdered in their house just around the corner from the station, but it is a very safe neighborhood, by the way.
By all means.
But it's a really nice house. So they put it up, they fixed it up and they put it up for sale. And so I went and looked at it. And if somebody had not been murdered, I would have bought the house because it's a really, really nice house. But I noticed they have lost all their trees.
Oh,
so there's like 16 people in the yard with chainsaws at 6:30 in the morning.
Yep.
That neighbor is going to be a really, really popular guy on next door.
Yeah. Think of the roofing companies this summer too. My gosh.
Oh, well, how about this? So there's another part of this of if, you've had some hail damage with your car, what if you recently took your car in and you got it fixed? You're like, oh, that first major storm around Arbor Day.
Got it out of the way.
And then it came
That
and
was
you're
us.
like, okay, the second time, all right, I got to get it in. And you just got it back and you happen to be outside last night.
Oh,
I'll just wait till November.
There was a lot of people in our neighborhood over the last several weeks that have had their roof replaced because, that entire area with that major hailstorm in the morning, probably everybody in our neighborhood has a total loss with their roof that they had to get it replaced. A lot of people, thank goodness we hadn't done it yet. I know people who are actually having it done today, but that wasn't just our area too. That was throughout Omaha. So there was a lot of people. I don't know what the percentage would be, but there was a lot of people that already had them replaced and probably have to have people come right back out and check that, which, geez. Again, I blame the Omaha. You're right. It's a good point. I blame the Omaha. It's supposed to protect us from multiple events like that.
Yeah, that was a real windstorm last night. And, a lot of people are going to be fixing. Around my neighborhood and all the way to 90th and Center, appears that seeing friends that live along that corridor had a lot of damage. Like trees going through your roof.
Yeah.
Like trees that, you've had forever that are gone. Just, it's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
But we will rebuild. People that, like you two, that still have power and less that, maybe had a lawn chair that was blown into the middle of the yard. I'm sure you'll rebuild.
Actually.
Oh, I got a fence that is that's completely gone.
And it's all about the friends we made along the way.
You know what?
Plant.
And we have football this month.
Yeah.
And Dylan Ryle is on Sports Center. If you have power, you can watch it. If not, you just have to be told about it.
We'll get to that here in a
30
moment
days.
too, but
30 days.
You mentioned one of the terms that during these events we're always inundated with. So going back to the tornado and then even the hailstorm, the leading edge was something that I've heard a lot of lately. You brought up windbag. Until yesterday afternoon, now this was before anything happened.
You never heard of it?
I had not heard of the windbag storm event.
Reed Timmer posted about it
yesterday. Yes, that's who I saw it from. And I saw a lot of people commenting on just the terminology of a windbag, thinking that was actually kind of humorous. And apparently that's what a windbag looks like. You said windbag like you've been, you already know this term and has probably used that in the weather world of windbag. I had never heard that. I had never heard of a derecho before we had that derecho. There was another, the bomb cyclone from a few years back. Had never heard of that as well.
You ever heard of the dry slot?
Oh yeah, the dry slot.
Polar vortex.
Yep, polar vortex. Yeah, so there's been a lot of things over the last 10 years.
So where that comes from, it's not a
windbag.
You probably will not hear any of the TV meteorologists use it because Reed, that's his word that he made up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he uses that for any threat of wind-producing storm clusters that are all together.
Yeah.
Like that might be gusts of 75 or more. So that's his term. I don't think Bill Ranby will drop the word windbag.
We got another windbag.
Yeah.
I believe they used.
What's their name?
Destructive wind event is what was, because everybody's phones went off last night.
Yes. And I think I may have put a setting, when they go off and, everybody's phone goes off at the same time, or you have a
tractor beam.
I prefer the P-tweet than that.
You have like a silver alert.
Yeah.
Somebody that goes missing.
Yes.
That is in Davenport.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need to know about it in Omaha, Nebraska.
Could be headed your way though.
I don't get the noise anymore.
I didn't yesterday either.
But I heard so
my wife did. I did not,
because how they labeled the wind. Is it 80 miles or more?
Yeah.
That's why the sirens went off. And even though, because the sirens went off in my neighborhood and a lot of neighborhoods around town, except for, I guess, out in Sarpy County, they went off after the storm. But in my neighborhood, they went off and nothing had started to happen yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's see. Let's turn on the television.
Yeah.
And
that's
they
exactly
said it's because the winds were in that range that they put off the sirens.
Yeah. I was telling Jimmy, so we were up later than we wanted to be, trying to figure out what we're going to do with the fence. And again, have some great neighbors that I didn't even need to ask them. They were ready. Like, all right, let's see if we can get this thing up. Let's see if we can still prop it up until you can do something with it. And they're awesome. Then we had the little man got sick again this time in the middle of the night. So I got to the point where it's like, all right, I'm not going back to sleep because his little last event was right before 3. You know what the beauty of it was? Woke up. It was like the British Open all over again, though. You had 3 a.m. golf. 3 a.m. golf watching United States not doing all that great. Hideki Matsuyama doing very well, at least was as when I left. But so, I mean, you did, if you have, again, this is, now I'm not trying to rub it into you, I promise, because I have power. But I was able to watch some golf at 3 a.m. So I guess it wasn't all bad.
It's kind of rubbing it in because you were watching golf and you had power.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I got.
It doesn't hit the same if you say you were watching the game show.
I'm about to find out if I can live in the radio station.
Oh, they've got. I see that we already got fans out there.
Yeah,
ready to rock and roll.
We had Pac-12 Network till it died.
You got tomorrow.
We got 3x3 going on.
Is tomorrow the official end of the Pac-12 Network?
The new commercial?
Because tomorrow is the official day that 4 teams come into the league.
Yep. Well, they do the, like when a radio station is changing formats or whatever, so they just play constantly either a song or something over and over. I remember the first time I ever was introduced to this. Trying to remember what the radio station was, but it was in Omaha, and they just kept playing The End of the World on repeat as they were getting ready to switch formats.
Easy listening.
And we were wondering what the hell's going on. I mean, you're a young kid. I was like 9 or 10 years old, and we used to listen to the old radio right there. I'm like, what's happening? And then I found out the next day that it was a new format. But yeah, it was End of the World the entire time. So I don't know if the Pac-12 will do something similar. Will they'll just have the same? Maybe they'll whatever the Pac-12's equivalent to Silver Lining, they'll just have that on repeat. And then at the very end, once it is like 11:59 p.m., they'll just have a little farewell, a little goodbye. Yeah. Maybe all the mascots will get together and just give a
national
big
anthem,
final hug.
No.
Yeah, then an anthem will roll into
static.
Judging from the 4 teams that were in Indianapolis, there is no, hey, kumbaya, let's have a little last party. They're like, we're getting the hell out of here. You've ruined this league.
Yeah.
And the Pac-12 at the end catches a stray because I saw the ACC was claiming Katie Ledecky.
Oh, yeah, of course. Just like we'll claim Reggie Bush and USC's run, we, as in the Big Ten. Troy Aikman is now a Big Ten alum, which is just fantastic. Marcus
After he transferred from an SEC school?
One of the greatest quarterbacks that never was, and Joey Harrington is now a Big Ten alum.
Is the greatest coach ever in the history of the Big Ten, regardless of sport, John Wooden?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's ours now.
John McKay was good, too, at what he did.
Now we've got John freaking Wooden that we can say, hey, Big Ten.
Don James, the Dogfather, Big Ten great.
Of Washington, yeah. See, there's so many great things there. So, yes, tomorrow does mark the beginning of the end. And the Big Ten could the new additions, I feel like they shouldn't have been able to actually hit the practice field until tomorrow. Because technically they were practicing as Pac-12 teams this week, and now they're in the Big Ten. But I don't know, that didn't stop them. You mentioned Dylan Ryle, Patrick Mahomes, little love, and then all of a sudden the picture of Dylan walking into his dorm as Patrick Mahomes is walking into old St. Joe out there in Missouri Western. Very, very similar. Now everybody, if you didn't know already, now there's like, hey, who's this guy? Even your boy Tyreek Hill getting in on it as well. Now knowing who Dylan Ryle is.
Nebraska's back, baby.
Yep.
Nebraska is relevant. Ryle was on SportsCenter.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal because usually it's only LeBron and Stephen A.
Here's the thing. There's some jabronis out there that, and maybe I'm being harsh because you haven't followed him or you're an NFL person and you think that he is like doing it as a bit.
Right.
That's his idol. His idol. And he just happens to have a look that is very similar to the guy that quarterbacks in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of us around here are hoping that he has a career that is somewhat close to the guy in Kansas City for his career at Texas Tech.
Yeah,
but people are like, well, that's just mocking Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so. Welcome. You can follow him. I think he has looked like that for a while. I don't think all of a sudden he was going to have parted hair.
Okay. Although that would have been pretty impressive.
All of a sudden he was going to get white.
Damn Nebraska.
It worked for me to get a scholarship. Now I'm going to go back to just being, I'm going to be Dylan.
Did you ever see the movie Soul Man? That's what there were pills that he was taking. It wasn't like remember when Aaron Rodgers showed up as old Cameron Poe of Con Air, Nicolas Cage? Like that was a bit
stayed that
because the hair looked very similar.
It's game month. Let's just play football.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just play a football game, okay? But thanks for the attention. That was good.
Yeah.
I've not seen how many likes, retweets, all of that stuff, or reposts that Mahomes got for his Lil Cuzzo.
Yeah, Lil Cuzzo. And then getting the responses from guys like Tyreek Hill. Like, no way, bro. With laughing tears emoji as well. This is where I hope people will also, if you didn't know, I mean, the people we're talking to already know, so I don't even know. I'm just saying this out loud. For the NFLers that thought it's either a bit or anything, just watch his mannerisms. That was one of the more entertaining things. And I think when we were at the spring game, that was being brought up just about every other play by people along the row that we were sitting in, is the mannerisms, and then the setting guys in motion. Everything was very similar to what you see from 15 in Kansas City too. And then there is like the walk. There's the knees pointed in, kind of pigeon toe-ish.
So they have a similar body.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, that's his idol. He has molded his game after him. That's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of people that do that. I mean, a lot of athletes will say, man, I wore a specific number because of blank.
We also
I wore 21 because of Roger Craig.
Yep.
I run high knees because I saw blank.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Just happens to be the best player in the NFL. And there's a guy at Nebraska that looks strikingly like he could be his brother. He looks more like Patrick Mahomes' brother than Jackson Mahomes does.
And much more likable.
He actually does. Probably the one he'd rather claim, too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's actually, I thought Jackson Mahomes was your brother. No, that kid at Nebraska.
Pat brought back the dad bod, so.
Yeah. It's funny because we talk about it all the time. And then all of a sudden, just one picture of him walking into the dorm.
Just play football. Jesus.
But you're right. It gave Nebraska a lot of notoriety there. This is what happens
when you're 5-7. Get better.
Yes.
You're 5-7 and people obsess over pictures of people walking into a dorm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it makes news. My God, just win. Okay? So we can get this crap out of any discussion.
Well, it's cute. That's what it is. It's cute because
no, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Okay,
it's a better way of saying it. But
they're not talking about the guy at Ohio State that looks like Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a fair point there. But yeah, this is what we got right now until we don't. Now as I said, we're 5-7 until we're not 5-7. So these are the things that are going to get. I admit though, not the Dylan Raiola picture. I admit, though, every picture that they showed for every guy that was when they posted guys get into the dorms, I was obsessed. I mentioned this yesterday I was curious about their fan game and the guys that had the towers compared to the guys that had the less experienced guys that had the desk fans. So there was a little bit of a detail there that I was actually interested in. But again, you're probably to your point of we just need to play football. Yeah, we probably do. But this is why, I'm going to be locked into Hard Knocks starting on Tuesday because it's my team. But all those little tiny details of like the build up to it, it's entertaining. I did think it was very funny we live in a world, and I think college football even, because we saw this at Big Ten Media Days, knows exactly who Dylan Raiola is, knows what his abilities can be, and are very curious to see if what he showed will translate into college football and have that type of success. So this was this was the NFL world being introduced to Dylan Raiola, where at least this happened for people like myself that feel like, hey, everybody knows who this kid is. Well, I guess there's still a lot of people who don't that just watch the NFL. So it's more of an eye-opening thing. But just like the college game, the EA Sports, college football is going to improve the game, bring more attention to the game. Patrick Mahomes saying Macuzzo. just made college football that much more better. Yes, it did. Made Nebraska football that much more popular. Because how many Chiefs fans that are Missouri or KU fans are now like, oh, is this true? Are they related? They're going to vet this a little bit. They're going to realize he's not, but then they're going to realize that they work out together. So you might have just converted some Missouri or Kansas fans that are just strictly Chiefs fans that don't really care about college football. Maybe they're now going to be closet Nebraska fans because the guy that's going to play quarterback for Nebraska looks like the guy that has won them 3 Super Bowl titles. I mean, it's not a bad thing. No? Okay. I'm trying. I really am. I'm trying on this one.
It's August 1st. There's football this month. Thank you.
This is what happens when the first practice, all we do is we get pictures. We get pictures of guys at practice. That's all. So then we got to talk about a picture that went viral. That's all. We'll get more. We got to practice on Saturday.
Yes, we do.
We got to practice on Saturday. Got information on that, by the way, real quickly. Want to pass that along. If you are making your way there, some things to know. You got the gates opening at 5:30. Now, you will have just the west side of the stadium which again tells you not a huge following. I think you mentioned this yesterday. Tickets will go on sale, but they will come to a halt as far as being able to get them by 5 o'clock. You need to get those by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Parking, you got that around Memorial Stadium. That's going to be free of charge. You can park in the Stadium Drive parking garage, lots 4, 5, and 9. Champions Club lot will not be available. If you're going to park overnight, which I don't know, are you going to make a party out of this thing? Are people actually going to be going to the bars afterwards? You will be ticketed if you do overnight parking, so don't be doing that as well. Yes, the seating area, as I mentioned, for all general admission. So as soon as you get in, you can sit where the hell you want, but it'll be on the West Stadium.
You know what they should have done with this? So there's 2 things here. And I don't know what the logistics are or what the cost is, but they should show the Bud Crawford fight on Husker Vision.
You mentioned that last time. I thought it was a good idea.
Here's another thing. And people that I've talked to and a handful of people that I know that are going, that are going to support 1890, and they want to see guys in action, whether they're going to scrimmage or not. And I mean, first day of practice, first day of padded practice.
Yeah.
But then there are, people that are like, I know it's one of my last weekends with the kids. We're getting out of town. Or there's the Bud Crawford fight. Don't kid yourself. And I know we haven't talked much about it, and you're not a huge boxing guy, but Saturday night with Bud fighting in this town is different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everywhere you go, people are watching a fight. People are betting on a fight. Bud's going to win me more money again this year. Okay, this fight. So some are like, I don't know, man. I want to watch the Bud Crawford fight. Here's what they should have done. And maybe this will be another element the next time they do this, is why not offer a streaming service of the practice for $10, $15?
Okay, so I was curious if they would have some type of it's an interesting point, because you would think, all right, for people who maybe it's inconvenient for them to get there, and like you said, there's vacations maybe still going on, but you want to still tap into that you could have a couple of camera views of being able to see an overhead look, maybe you get more of a lower level sideline, maybe an end zone cam, and you could see different things, have different angles, 3 options, and be able to tap into the practice. I thought again, these are. I love showing the fight on the screen. I think that is a great idea. But yeah, if you wanted to charge less but still charge, how many people do you think would actually tune into that? Or where you had the availability to have it on demand?
So they're going to have to. They're trying a lot of different things. Okay, and they want to make I think the only thing from here on out surrounding Nebraska football that will be free is Fan Day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'll ever charge for Fan Day.
Right.
But you're going to have to pay to play. And they're trying to think outside of the box on ideas on how to engage fans where, 1890 and the student athletes are the beneficiaries of what's different. What are we doing different that gets people excited to pay $25 to come see a practice? And the numbers that we thought when this was initially announced, they're not even going to come close to. I think if they get 5, that's a good start. I
Mhm.
don't know if they'll announce officially how many tickets they've sold before Saturday, but the streaming part, there are a lot of people that don't live in Lincoln and Omaha. I don't know if you guys know this or not. This is a state of 1.9 million.
Mhm.
There happens to be 300,000 people live in Lincoln. There's 1 million people who live here. There are 600,000 other people that live across the state of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Not easy to get to Lincoln for some.
Yep.
But if you, that diehard fan in Shadron, if you gave them an option to turn on their computer at 6:30 on Saturday night, August 3rd, and log in and pay $15 that goes directly to 1890 and the student athletes, and they could watch practice with some commentary. I mean, don't you think that person in Shadron or that person in Dallas or Boise or Phoenix that are diehard Nebraska fans that like, oh man, this is a cool idea. If I was there, I would do it. They're like, wow, I can still do it. And I'm sitting in my, I'm sitting on my couch, with a fire stick watching Nebraska practice on my big screen on August 3rd, and it gets me fired up for the season.
Yeah.
And I paid $15 and I didn't even think twice about it.
Mhm. I think even having more opportunities like that as you get closer to the season, where you can say get an hour of a selected practice and you have it for a 24-hour window. So if when it's actually going on, maybe like with a lot of these practices that are in the morning, okay, maybe you're at work, but when you get home from work, you can watch an hour practice, or on your lunch break, you can watch an hour of practice because you have it for a 24-hour window. I don't think that that's too far off as far as either pulling that off, just having live look-ins to it, having the coach, whether it be Matt Rule, whether it be maybe Tony White or Satterfield, or having guys take turns, being mic'd up for a little bit while they're going about practice. Again, these are the all-access things. And I know we get something similar to the look in, but it's not just all practice. A lot of that is, what they're doing in the facilities, what they're doing in the dorms, and a little bit more the personal side of the players, which I think is also important when you feel like you're getting the inside access. But as far as practices, I mean, how many times do we talk about this a lot in the past when things are not going good with the team and you get people questioning, well, how are they practicing? How much are they hitting? How physical are they being? All of those little elements to it. And now you can say, hey, you get a chance to see with your own eyes, when in the past, the media only got maybe the first 15, 20 minutes of a selected practice to actually shoot and watch it. And then you're ushered out, and then they're doing other things, which we're not privy to.
You're not going to see anything earth-shattering on Saturday. I mean, I might give you a little stuff, but very aware that people are watching.
Yeah.
But you do get to see how they practice. Now, it could be some organized chaos because it's the first padded practice of the year. So guys could be, maybe not in the right spot. It's just, it's a good preview of the football season. It gives people a taste.
Yeah.
And I think if you added an element of the guy or gal, wherever they might be in this country, where they can't get to Lincoln, but they'd love to, and you give them an option and they're still willing to pay $10 less than the person that's sitting in the stands, I think they do it in a heartbeat. And maybe that's something they try next time. But they are thinking outside of the box, because this will be a regular thing of partnerships and trying to include fans and all about access. I said a month ago on the show, everything is access now. People will pay for special access. People pay to get into the ballpark early to watch batting practice and stand behind home plate in a little roped off area, hoping that one player will come over to take a picture or sign autographs, but you have access that you paid for. It's kind of like you pay to have a better seat on a plane.
Right.
In sports and with Nebraska, you pay to get an extra thing. In the past, these weren't public and they were given to big time boosters. Now they're bringing in people that are willing to pay and join the 1890 and give them access so they feel special. And they're doing something that your neighbor isn't doing.
Yeah.
They're like, look what I went to do.
Right. And that's the part about these types of opportunities. When you hear, basically any type of reports that we have from practice, you're watching. I know a lot of people just watch the press conferences. A lot of people watch the post-practice press conferences. And why are they listening? They want to hear if there's anything that is going to give them any indication of what to expect either that weekend, that Saturday, or as we are right now in camp, of any major news. Now, a lot of people will rely on their favorite beat writers to get that information, but also you hear it from the horse's mouth too, and you can detect tone and things like that, you feel like, hey, I'm doing my part as a fan of staying on top of what is going on with this team. If you whet that appetite just a little bit more with, doesn't have to be every practice. It would never be every practice, but certain practices where you're doing different things on each opportunity and you're charging just a little bit more money. I feel like there are certain fan bases in it, a lot of it in college football, because I think the NFL is so different that, there is a lot of access to the people, like the media that actually covers it. But as far as college football, you know how it is across the river. Many of our colleagues in the state of Iowa don't get a chance to really get an inside look of what is going on with Iowa football day in and day out. There are very few media availabilities and things of that nature. But that's a fan base that would love to have, quote, access. They just don't have it. They get used to it. Nebraska, and this is one thing Matt Rule has done very, very well, is he continues to give access to the fans and be nowadays more creative in doing so. But when it comes to something as simple as practice, that's not going to be a hit everywhere. At every other college football program, there are going to be a lot of people who are like, you know what? I'm going to watch on Saturdays. I'll listen to what is being said after practices or the press conference before the game. Other than that, I'm good. But there's also other fan bases like Nebraska. Like, you want to give me some of that access? You want to give me some of that? I'll take that. So it is interesting, but that is happening on Saturday. We'll give you that. Again, any information that we get as far as the latest on OPPD outages. And again, I know there's going to be some information on tree drop off and different ways to help with debris. We will pass that information along to you. If you have any stories, anything you want to share, again, you can hit us up 402-951-1620, or you can tweet at us at Gary Sharp 1620, at Nick Handley 1620, or email on the Equitable Bank inbox. He is Gary at 1620thezone.com. I am Handley at 1620thezone.com. Jimmy's got an update coming up. We will get back into more college football. USA last night, well, I should say yesterday is when it happened. They did take care of Sudan, as we thought that they would, but Jason Tatum actually played, and no Joel Embiid. Will that change going forward? That and much, much more. We're going to be talking Chicago Bears camp at 8 o'clock with Carmen DeFalco. We will talk with Sip at 8:30. Also going to talk some more college football with David Cobb of CBSSports.com and Brian Edwards before we get out of here as we go into hour 2. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Shout out to Rob, who tweeted at the show earlier to let us know of this. Jean's Auto from Papio South defeated 5 Points Bank from Omaha Creighton Prep last night, 9-4 in the American Legion State Baseball Tournament. Many people are wondering how the hell they play a game with the windbag that invaded us with the failing of the Omadome. The game started at 4 o'clock. It was a nice summer day then and was delayed, obviously. It then finished around 11 o'clock. We'll see if they can discuss putting in a retractable roof.
Wasn't that in Lincoln?
Yeah.
That division is in Lincoln?
Yeah, and then
okay.
Elkhorn's
Elkhorn's
the other site, and that's
so they
been
play at
postponed.
4 and 7 today.
They'll play today. It'll be gorgeous.
So Papio South will play the winner of, I don't know, either one is the national or American.
Yeah.
And then they play on Saturday.
Yep. For the all Class
Everything.
A title.
And I just can't get into Legion baseball.
Papio South will play.
They play 4,000 games.
They'll play in the Central Plains.
It's only 3,200. Come on.
They'll play in the Central Plains Regional next week in lovely West Fargo, North Dakota.
You know, it was actually really
nice
cool.
this time of year.
There was a time in Legion baseball they did this, that the Class A state, because you only had one state tournament, the Class A state champion would go on to play in usually the Great Plains Regional, which was usually between Nebraska and the North. And then the Class A runner-up would play the Class C1 state champ. And they would battle for usually the Mid-South. So you'd play Nebraska or, the regional being like Nebraska or Kansas or Oklahoma or Texas. And so, you would get usually a C1, wouldn't even be like a town team. It'd usually be a collection of a lot of guys in the area. They didn't have to, I just remember there was Morse Bluff. I'm like, who the hell is Morse Bluff? I found out that it was North Bend and everybody
that's cool.
Yeah. So that was actually a really cool thing. They used to do that when I was in high school, that Class A would play, a Class A runner up of that state championship game would play the C1 champ for.
We've had some nice runs. Lincoln East made it all the way to the final last year. Creighton Prep.
Yep.
has
Westside's
made it
had
down
teams
to
there.
North Carolina.
Yep. Millard South has made the Legion World Series at least once in the last 8 years. So
What was the Adrian Fiala? What Pepsi? Was it
Lincoln Pepsi?
No, Omaha. God, what was the Legion team that he was on? He told me. I want to say Pepsi was in their name. I'll look it up.
Because there used to be a Lincoln Pepsi select team. So
this is Adrian back in the 60s.
Yeah.
The late Adrian Fiala. All right, Jimmy, sorry.
No, you're okay. Yeah. Remember him well. So, all right. What else is going on? They'll play in West Fargo. I don't think it'll be snowing this year.
Pepsi. Yes.
It was just Pepsi?
They were sponsored by Pepsi. So, over way back in the day, long before I was ever around, Bishop Bryan was at 60th and L.
Mm-hmm.
So a really good athletic school.
Yep.
And they were a great baseball. Adrian would tell the stories of how great a baseball team they were. And it was in the mid-60s. They got all the way to the American Legion National Championship.
Okay.
And I think they were just called Omaha Pepsi.
Omaha, okay.
I think that was the name of their team.
Okay.
But they were essentially, it was the kids from Bishop Ryan High School.
Okay. So, and Jimmy, you said West Fargo is where the regional is?
Yes, not East Fargo.
So
Main streets of West Fargo.
The only regional, when I coached Miller North in 2002, so it was our first year with Cork and myself, we won state, made the regional, and we played up in Williston, North Dakota.
You got to stop this music. It's killing me.
Oh, it'll stop.
The Williston, North Dakota. So it'd be right around the same time. So go into August. And the game that we played, we were playing the Friday night game against the host team of Williston. We had to postpone it because it was sleeting.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
Checks
sleeting
out.
in August.
Yeah, checks out.
So you laugh, say it's not going to be snowing. It
probably will be
It could
snowing,
be. And then that morning it said, we had the Weather Channel on. It said coldest places in the country. Yep, we got it at 38 degrees, baby.
If I was playing American Legion baseball, I'd only want to play one team, and it'd be the Hard Hats from Rapid City.
Yep, they were in that regional. We lost to them.
Yeah, they're always like 62-3.
Yep.
But I heard they lost the other day because the South Dakota State Legion tournament's going on in Brookings.
Yeah.
It's a long story. Don't ask me how I know.
Oh,
this.
I know how you know, because I found that out as well. We have a mutual friend who is working there right now.
Yeah. Middle of a derecho in Omaha, and they're sending me pictures. Like, hey, it's raining here. Hey,
really? Here too?
I hope South Dakota State drops football. I think that was the response I had back to
That's good.
Tyler. So Rapid City lost, they're in the losers bracket.
Yeah.
But they're like an ungodly 67-5.
Yeah. I was talking to
They all wear the hard hats.
They wear the shells.
They're all John Olerud.
Yep, and even the pitchers do. That blew my mind that the pitcher even wears the Olerud shell. Is crazy because I think that would think as on your follow through, that thing would be popping off every time. No, it stayed on. And it's just weird seeing a guy pitch with a shell on that doesn't need it because he had some type of head injury before, but that's just what they do. And apparently I laughed at this the first time we ever played them. Our coach was trying to explain to us the whole history. He's like, yeah, this is a big deal when you make that team and they hand you your hard hat. And we just thought that was the funniest. They were like, what? Like, why would that be a big deal? It just looks like the most uncomfortable thing in the world. And you have to have one that fits your head tight. Otherwise, that thing's popping off. It's probably going to hurt when it lands on your face. But yeah.
I can just imagine sports talk there. When are they handing out the hard hats?
Yeah, it is. It's like the black shirts. When you guys handing out the hard helmets.
Speaking of the black shirts, the Big Red Preview will take place Saturday. Why are we telling you that when you already know? It'll be the first athletic event of the new season to feature Nebraska Athletics' new cashless concessions operations. They had featured cashless concessions for men's and women's basketball games at the PBA, and beginning of the season, all Husker athletic venues will move to cashless concessions. So save those dollar bills for the gentlemen's clubs, if you will. Improved Wi-Fi Memorial Stadium concourses for the season. That's not bad to begin with, so they'll be nice. Will be used to implement the cashless concessions and improve the overall efficiency of the concession operations at home games. At the Olympics, the U.S. Women's volleyball team held on to win its first match, getting the much-needed win. They had a good match the other night that they lost, but they got another exciting one. They defeated the Serbians. After winning the first two sets, they won in 5. And they ended up winning that last set 17-15. The U.S. lost its first match against China in 5 sets. They play their final pool play match Sunday against the French. Former Husker Justine Wong-Arantes, I remember her, was back in the starting lineup at libero. She made several point-saving digs in the close 5th set. The Omaha Stormchasers ended the month of July with a loss, falling 3-2 in extra innings to Rochester. They went up early, scoring both runs on a 2-run homer from Nate Eaton in the 3rd. That was the team's only hit through the first 5 innings. 2 other base runners reached via the walk. They'll search for their first win of the 6-game series after dropping the first 2 tonight. Worrying about which superstar player, poor Steve Kerr, might not play on a given night. It could end up what they're about. Their unrelenting depth will continue to lead to some uncomfortable moments when the coaching staff grapples with how to manage it all. But it fuels the way they work. Blah, 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 blah. They won yesterday against most hated rival South Sudan, 103-86 to go 2-0 in Olympic play and punched its ticket into next week's quarterfinals. The Americans' bench was devastating, racking up 66 points compared with just 14 from the South Sudanese, and going on 2 key runs that essentially defined the game. Former NBA MVP Joel Embiid, they make it sound like he's washed up. He's still pretty darn good. Went from starter to never getting off the bench Wednesday. Jason Tatum, who was benched in the previous game, moved into the starting lineup. As a result, Bam Adebayo, who got extended minutes because Embiid sat, had perhaps his best game ever with the national team, coming off the bench to score 18 points on 8 of 10 shooting with 7 rebounds as the leader among 6 players who scored in double figures. They'll wrap up pool play Saturday against Puerto Rico. If the Puerto Ricans win, they become the 51st state officially.
Do we have an update? Because there is probably one of the most exciting events that are going on right now. Not a repeat of Katie Ledecky in the pool.
Yeah, which, by the way...
Secretariat.
Watching that last night,
the all 22.
I mean, she's so good that it's actually not exciting at all.
Is she that good?
Well, when she had lapped the pool,
I don't know if she's that good, because if she was that good, she would be able to swing the 1500, which is up and back 15 times.
Yeah,
with a glass of chocolate milk on her head, and she can't, and she hasn't tried. So I'm gonna keep her in a different category than the GOAT.
The standards that sometimes you set for people are just unattainable, Gary.
If you could do that, then I'd be impressed.
Do you think Michael Phelps could do that?
Jeez. It's amazing. I said Simone Biles is 27. She's competing at that level in that sport where some would say you're washed up when you're like 20.
Yeah. You're an old timer.
Katie Ledecky is, 28? I remember when she came in studio when we used to have the swim trials here in Swimtown.
Mm-hmm.
And she was still relatively young. She was, I think she was at Stanford at the time.
Yeah.
And, she talked about the training and what the body feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes out and she swims the 1500, which, come on, none of us want to do that.
I couldn't swim the 15 centimeters.
You don't even go to the Y and go, you know what? I'm going to get 1500 in today.
See Snoop doing one lap. He was already winded.
Yeah. But that's her sport. the fact that the broadcast has to go to the all 22 just so you can see her competition.
Yeah.
She is so dominant, but never has swam with a glass of chocolate milk on her head that never spills.
I would hope that, I mean, we see so many great
I would hope
things.
she would try it in the off season to see if when she goes to Los Angeles, they actually let her do it.
Yeah.
But what I need the update on right now is the sport that I think could save malls.
Save malls?
Malls.
You talking about speed walking?
Race walking.
Right, yeah, race walking is fun.
So race walking is going on right now. And don't kid yourself. You might think.
I'm not mocking.
Hey, Gerald over here across the street might be like, oh, you guys have been talking about, could I be an Olympian? I could be an Olympian. No.
Mm-mm.
It actually takes some coordination because you always have to have one foot on the ground.
Yes.
Got to train at West Roads.
I'm fascinated by watching race walkers, and if that is my path to the Olympics. But why don't they include mall walkers? Why do we have to put a limit on the age of people that are on the Olympic team?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we have the mall walkers that still walk around Oakview upstairs? Like, why can't we recruit them? Malls could be saved if we promote more mall walking. Remember when mall walking was huge? Malls would open at 6 a.m.
My first job was in a mall, Gary. Finish line, baby.
And if by chance you didn't have grandparents, you could go to the mall and adopt one because they were walking.
And they all had headbands on.
Yes.
They all wore headbands. That was
and they were wearing the big heeled Skechers before we even knew what Skechers were.
I mean, we called them orthopedic shoes.
When they were still cool.
Yeah. It was the craziest scene. I didn't even know about mall walking, didn't know anything about it. But when I had to open, because I think I told you, I went from Finish Line, then across the way to American Eagle in my time in high school. I went to the transfer portal. Yeah, I went to the Oakview Mall transfer portal. So anytime we had to open, there's like, why are all these cars at? There's not this many managers that are at Oakview. Oh, I didn't know about the craze that was mall walking. And I don't think I ever saw a walker. First of all, I never saw a male mall walker. They're all older women.
Yeah.
And I don't think I saw one that would have been under the age of 55. And I mean, they're relentless because if you are in their way, there's not a on your left because they're usually engaged in a conversation, but they're going at a brisk pace. But the other part that I always noticed about it is, and I didn't know if it was maybe a club, maybe there was a certain club at Oakview, they all had headbands. They all had the old school little red, white, and blue, or maybe sometimes it's just a blue one, but they all had the...
Where do you think LeBron got it from?
Well, he got them for the mall walkers, apparently. It was... So, yeah, it was the last Olympics that I watched, the speed walking. Oh, my gosh.
I've never seen this.
It's seriously... It does look hard. I mean, it really does. And you're right, because we got so... Jenny and I got so into it, watching this, that we had to look up the rules because they didn't really explain it during the broadcast. I think they probably do if you're just dialed into it the whole time. But you mentioned the part about having the 1 foot has to be on the ground at all times, because I thought the same thing. How is this an Olympic sport? And I bet I could do this. And then you start realizing, because some people like their strategy and their pace, it's very confusing to me. But then you realize, I mean, your leg length would probably be a big factor in that. Your overall stride that you can gain, speed while keeping. Like, there's a lot of factors in there. It's actually really, really interesting.
See,
is this on Gold Zone? Because if it's on Gold Zone, we'll see it.
Should be.
Here's the issue, though. So it's 12 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially race walking 12 miles. Kind of as you remember, if you've ever been like, oh man, I got to go catch a flight, but you're not in great shape to run.
Yeah, or you just don't want to run.
You walk fast to your gate at the airport.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. But here's where the downfall of malls in America has really hurt us in this sport, because there is no American in the Olympic race walk.
Oh.
So we are going to go through a generation as malls change and we don't have regular malls where we can learn how to mall walk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is where the trial should be.
Or
Omaha?
Or
no, just at malls.
Or we don't have to worry about racing to a gate because, you know, your flight's going to be canceled no matter what.
Yeah.
We're going to struggle to find people to race walk. And it's true. Like, we're getting past, like, countries like Japan and China
because they're always
France.
They're always chasing down that last second flight.
I would think it would be difficult in like China and Japan to practice race walking on the street.
Yeah,
because they're so crowded.
Yeah, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you need them all. You do need them all.
But this has been going on here in the last hour, and I am fascinated to watch this. If you are wondering, Ecuador has won the gold
in race walking.
For the men, guy named Brian from Ecuador.
Okay,
and then
it's common Ecuadorian name.
Yang Jiu from China repeated as the women's race walker.
They're a wagon.
Imagine when you're in the village and they go, "Hey, what are you in the Olympics for?"
Race walker.
I'm swimming the 400 IM. I got the backstroke. I got the breaststroke.
Triathlon.
I'm on the 800 relay. What? I race walk.
Race walk and hook up with other athletes.
Do you think any of the? This would be an interesting question because I want to know what the average age of the race walk competitors are, and do you ever get the runoff of male and female track athletes that didn't qualify? That decide, hey, you know what? I'm getting in the
like
race
going
walk.
into bobsledding?
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be kind of like a racehorse. I think it'd be tough to make a racehorse just like a prancer. Like they're not used
like
to
they wouldn't be in dressage.
Yeah. No, they're used to running. I don't think a world-class athlete in
You couldn't
track,
slow them down like that?
No. Like, hey, I know you just ran the 100, but would you like to do 12 miles of race walking? And you got to keep one foot on the ground all the time.
Yeah. It's just so weird. It's very fascinating, though.
Yeah. Sha'Carri Richardson doesn't work out for you at the Olympics. Maybe come back in LA and be a race walker.
Yeah.
It's officially under track and field. This is why I couldn't find it.
Well,
what did you think it was under?
Walking.
Leisure sports? Extreme sports? No,
I was looking for the little icon of an old person with a walker.
Yeah, I bet you didn't see that at the X Games.
Yeah, it is so big you don't have it in the Summer X Games.
Can you imagine that in the X Games?
This is awesome.
Oh, I'd be riveted watching that on ESPN Ocho.
People would really be brought down. Golf, by the way, Hideki Matsuyama is still 8 under.
You almost said it.
I almost did say Matsui. But I mentioned I was a little disappointed with the start that Xander got off to. He is now 5 under. So repping the red, white, and blue. Scotty, -3 right now, too. From what I heard of this particular golf course, the Le Golf National in Paris, France. It's a slick track, but it is one that, as Hideki Matsuyama is showing, that can lead itself to some high scores. So Tommy Fleetwood is -4. Rory is -4. Just some names to mention. Ludwig Oberg is 3 under. By the way, this was my favorite thing of watching this morning of Ludwig Oberg. When he teed off and he hit a piss missile. I'm sorry, I know we can only use that for baseball. He had a rifle.
No, I enjoy it.
Somebody tried to, in Norwegian, say mashed potatoes. It's true, too. Even the announcers said, I believe that was mashed potatoes in his country's language.
No Baba Booey?
No, not yet. Haven't heard any Baba Booey. Or remember, there was also the Dilly Dilly. That was popular for a little bit, too. But not great crowds there either at the Le Golf Complex. Le Golf National, anyway. But that's what's going on in golf because I had to watch that this morning. I'm just happy to see it. Jason Day also 4 under. This is gonna be a good one. Tom Kim, your favorite? Actually, I don't know if you are a Tom Kim fan at all. He's 5 under. So there you go. We got a special report. Anyway, when we come back, there was something that was brought up about the running back position that we were talking about a little bit yesterday that we will dive into as well. Going to get into Bears camp. Again, that's coming up at 8 o'clock with Carmen DeFalco of ESPN 1000. We got SIP at 8:30 as day number 2 of Husker Fall Camp will take place here very shortly. And then we will also be talking some college football with David Cobb of CBSSports.com covering the SEC and Brian Edwards. All still ahead here on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, Lindley Clothing is the place for you, as we are smack dab in the middle of summer, or you're getting set, go back to school. You know what? What a great way to send your son back to school in a great piece of menswear from Lindley Clothing. Conveniently located 132nd West Dodge in the Linden Market. They've been dressing men for nearly 90 years. Top-notch product, the best brands for you. Maybe you have a nice formal coming up here in the month of August, but you want to feel nice and cool. They have that with their spring and summer menswear. Check them out today. Top-notch product, top-notch brands, top-notch prices, but most importantly, the customer service is even better. They get to know you by name, not by just a person that's wandering around the store. And don't forget, also check out Well Suited, the combination of Lindley Clothing and Well Suited. There's no place better for men to get dressed, to get their fit rad than Lindley Clothing, 132nd West Dodge in the Linden Market. Hey, before you hop into something here, let's give a shout out because they take a lot of crap because I know people that work there. The OPPD line workers and others that are going to put in some extra time.
Yeah.
They do get it. They do get some ferocity from people that want their power back on. So if you're an electrician, line worker, all of that, good luck. We're pulling for you. And you know the drill. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that is out there. Amazing people that work at OPPD that are going to put the power back on. But I've never, ever seen, since I've been in Omaha, 220,000 plus people that were without power at one point yesterday. But their website went down.
Yeah.
They had some issues in Lincoln where the water has been impacted. Whoops.
This is one of the largest. Yeah, I saw that they had posted the largest restoration of power that they have seen really in the last 2 decades.
Well, I'm judging from texts from people that do not live here that were just checking that essentially news reports went out that all of Omaha was out of power.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, Omaha, to give us a little bit of credit, it's a little bit larger than 220,000.
Yeah. We got
Technically, I'm not in Omaha.
We got some solid power grids that
you're not.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What do you mean you don't live in Omaha?
I'm in the gray zone.
Yeah, I'm in.
You haven't been annexed yet?
No.
When she gets back, she's going to come annex you.
She just heard that. She's like, wait a minute. We left them?
I don't know.
my
The Cardinals
gosh.
are hot right now.
How did we miss that?
Wait a minute, Jimmy. I thought you lived firmly in Omaha.
Technically Elkhorn.
That won't be long. You'll be in Omaha. They'll come get you.
Yeah, they're coming for you.
It's fine. I like Omaha, so come get us.
Yeah, this is where it's kind of interesting though for trash collection too. We got to have all these different private, like, some of us have Papillion sanitation, some people have this and that. So yeah, it's kind of confusing. But
it's truck.
If it meant lower taxes, I'd be really excited about that. But no, I will second that though. They are going to be working around the clock, and
Good
at
weather
last
today
check,
for them.
it's under 175,000. So that number is coming down. Jimmy mentioned.
What about Sharpie's house?
Maybe have you checked lately?
Well, I don't think it's on because there would be something that would go off on my phone because there's something that would kick in that would alert me.
Not your AC though.
The Doppler.
No, at least it's not going to be oppressive today for people that will not have AC.
That is true. Yeah, that is the good
by
thing.
Sunday, like you said, hopefully they'll
got a couple days of
of
tolerable. I mean, not even Gary Sharp tolerable, but normal human tolerable temperatures inside one's home. Hey, you brought up something yesterday that I wanted to talk a little bit more about. You asked the question to Brandon Vogel about Emmett Johnson of why does it at least seem that we're not ready to fully embrace him as RB1 or as the guy that you'd be okay with if he takes over as number one running back. He's getting the majority of the carries, and he's the one that is going to be Nebraska's, I don't even know if you can call it workhorse right now, because I just don't know if they're going to have the old traditional workhorse running back. And so as you were asking that question, I immediately thought of why I think at least myself, maybe others feel this way, maybe they don't, would be sort of reluctant to go all in. And I think some of that has to do with Dante Dowdell. Because there was for me personally, it was, okay, Dante Dowdell is going to represent the type of running back that Nebraska can get a lot more use out of. And then you've got other guys like an Emmett, reinforcements, Gabe Irvin, Ramir, you can use them in different ways, but you have the one feature piece of that backfield that is going to be on the field the majority of the time. I think it has nothing to do with Emmett Johnson. I think the Emmett Johnson part of it was trending in the right direction at the end of last year, where people were thinking, yeah, okay, good for him. He got his opportunity because a bunch of guys went down. And for the most part, he did pretty well. He made the most of it. So everything that he's now preparing for and trying to hold on to that spot, I think actually should be kind of exciting. And I know Brandon mentioned maybe the lack of explosive runs has people maybe not as excited. But I look at this entire running back room, because Dante Dowdell's best run in the spring game still didn't wow me. It still wasn't electric to where you're like, damn, okay, I get it. I see where there was major separation and the guy can absolutely dart down the sideline when he gets to that second level or can cut up, make guys miss, and then he's gone. I don't know if that guy even exists, but I do think part of the reluctance is I think there was a lot of hope that Dante Dowdell will be that guy. And now I think you're more, not you personally, but I think people are now more questioning where will Dante Dowdell fit in all of that mix? Because I know personally, and I don't mean to pile on him, but it just kind of gets to this because I think he gets brought up a lot when it comes to Nebraska's depth at running back, and that is Gabe Ervin. I just don't, and now coming off of a hip injury, I just don't know what you can truly expect out of Gabe Ervin. And he's another guy that he can give you some tough runs. He can get to the second level, but I don't know if there's that explosiveness with him. I think he's a fine running back. I just don't know if he is that difference maker. Is Quentin Ives in more the position that Emmett Johnson was a year ago? We don't know a lot about him. Ramir, it's always an interesting conversation, but the Dante Dowdell part of that question, I think, at least that's from my point of view, is why people maybe aren't ready to embrace Emmett Johnson. If he was named today, hey, he's our number one running back, that's the guy we're going to be rolling with for the majority of the carries, at least going into the UTEP game, why everybody be like, huh. Not necessarily like, all right, good, yeah, I'm good with that, but not like, oh, crap, we're screwed. But I think it's more of a, huh, okay. So what happened to Dante Dowdell? And so that's, it's. I don't think it has anything to do with Emmett Johnson, though, is what I'm saying.
I don't think Dowdell was brought in here to be the number one guy. I think he was brought in here to compete for the number one job. And that's on him if he doesn't grab the number one job.
Sure, absolutely.
So I've changed completely of looking at running backs. And I'm going to be Moneyball. And I'm going to give you a boring answer because I think there's going to be an odd man out. But there's two guys that haven't played a lot of football because they're injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. It's honesty. Gabe Ervin, Ramir Johnson. When they're on the field and they're at their height, there's a lot of things to like there. But they haven't been able to put a full season together health-wise. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to ride or die with somebody that I can't trust that's going to be there for 12 games, and especially when the schedule gets tougher later in the year and you need a battering ram. But you could also play the load management game, knowing that with a guy like Gabe Ervin. Is Gabe Ervin more important to you in November than he is in September and October? But I'm going to be Moneyball here, okay? You're a big fan of Moneyball?
Love it.
Remember when Brad Pitt, playing the role of Billy Bean, sat down with all the scouts and they were talking about how to replace Johnny Damon and Giambi?
Yep.
And they're like, we don't need one guy. We need three guys to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if they said three, but I'm going to say three. This is how I look at Nebraska's running backs this year. They need three guys to combine for 1,600 yards rushing. They need one guy to get 650. They need another guy to get 600. Then they need another guy to get 350. And then they need those three guys to all have 25 or more catches out of the backfield. If you give me that, Nebraska, we're not going to talk about who is running back number one. And honestly, running back number one may change game to game at Nebraska. But give me three guys to get you to 1,600 yards rushing out of the running back position. And then give me three guys that can catch 70 passes out of the backfield. And I'm good, and I think Nebraska's in a good spot. And I don't care who they are, just find me three guys that can do that. And one guy that is going to be at the top, and I think the guy that leads Nebraska in rushing, the second guy, maybe less than 100 yards away from that.
It makes the most sense when you do look at, I think, how this how this group is built. Because I would say from an explosive standpoint, I still like probably the most I've seen out of Emmett Johnson. And I think that what you're saying does make sense too. And I think that's more of college football anymore, where you're going to get a couple of programs that are going to have a guy that could be a 20-plus carry type of person. But we've talked about the evolution of the running back position now in 2024, that your ability to also, like you said, you mentioned the catching part of it, is going to be a big part of what offenses want to do right now. I compared it to is running back turning into the new cool, how tight end evolved. How tight end, you weren't just an inline blocker, but then you were catching passes, and now all of a sudden tight end is a pretty damn cool and popular position because there's a lot of flexibility on how you can be used. I do wonder if that's where we're going with running back. That's why I do think that in college football, what you're laying out right there for Nebraska is probably going to become more common, whether you're a team that's a contender or not, of the running back position. And hey, maybe that's good for running backs going to the NFL. Maybe that's good for we always talk about the shelf life of a running back and how they get devalued so much. But maybe when you do have the ability to do things in the passing game on top of the carries and limiting your carries and that workload, that helps you out. Think
about it this way. Does Nebraska have a guy that you would confidently say, man, give that guy 200 carries and then get out the way?
No, I do not.
Nobody that's built for 200 carries. So remember Braylon Allen, who suffered, he got banged up last year.
Mm-hmm.
He was at 181. That was his most carries. There is no Ollie Gordon or Cody Schrader or Frank Gore Jr. on Nebraska's roster. So that's fine. That's fine. The running back position is being devalued across football. It's still important, but now it is, man, what Roger Craig was doing was kind of would fit New Day football. That's why I say 3 to get to 1,600, 3 to get to 75 catches. Now, you might have to have 4 to get to 75 catches, but get ready because you have a quarterback that can throw a pass out of the backfield on a screen. Nebraska's running backs are going to be required to catch the football.
Yep. Yeah,
and there would, even more so in my opinion, than 3 running backs combining for 1,600 yards. If you got 3 running backs or 4 running backs in Nebraska that got anywhere near a combined 70 catches, oh my God, what would that do for that offense? I might be way on the high end of saying that number.
Yeah,
I feel pretty confident about the 1,600. The catches might be more, but I just think Nebraska's going to throw to guys out of the backfield more. They have options all over the place. But you look at who is here and how they're recruiting, guys got to be able to catch the football. Yep. Parker, who committed back in June, he can catch the football out of the backfield. And you had to finally have a quarterback that can hit a guy out of the backfield, and it's not just you hit him, it's 4 yards, and they go down.
Yes.
You hit him, and you hit them in stride where they go from 4 to 8 to 9 yards on a reception or even more.
Well, and it's okay. Good point, because we think about the running backs and again, this goes back to, I think, what you see in college football, where what quarterbacks are doing, being more advanced when it comes to throwing the football, being athletes that can now throw the football, not just being an athlete that is going to be a one-trick pony, whether he can be a pocket passer or be a guy that can run with the football, but making good athletic decisions, being able to extend plays, being able to have confidence in your offensive line that when you do, even if you're checking down to a running back, this goes back to the simplicity of what Nebraska needs out of the passing game, of accuracy, getting guys in space, and really being able to utilize the running backs in that way. That was the one big thing about Ramir Johnson that Matt Rule talked about. We saw too in that 2021 season of being able to utilize a guy getting out on the flat, getting in a wheel route, and being able to hit him where he beats a linebacker, he's down the sideline, then away he goes, uses his speed. Getting the ball there accurately, big part of that. You couldn't do that last year. You just couldn't with the quarterbacks that you had. We're going to take a quick break. We'll get to Kevin here on the other side of the break, wants to chime in on the conversation. Also coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to continue with our camp previews. We're going to take a look at the Chicago Bears, who also are in action tonight as they kick off the NFL preseason against the Houston Texans in the Hall of Fame game. Carmen DeFalco of ESPN 1000 will join us as we get in the 8 o'clock hour. Also, Steve Sipple of the On 3 and 93.7 The Ticket will join us in hour 3 as we continue on 1620 The Zone. Going to talk some Chicago Bears football here in about 5 minutes. Let's go to the 42-degree hotline, though, and welcome in Kevin on 1620 The Zone. Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Not much. How are you?
Doing all right. Out of power, of course.
Oh, sorry, man.
So I'm using precious battery life to ask this question.
Hey, thank you.
Yes.
I want to touch base on the 1,600 yards running back thing, and then I was speaking with him, so I probably missed some of it, and you might have explained it. But 1,600 yards, and we want to get to 5,000, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then that would be, dang it, I did the math too. But so 3,400 yards for Raiola.
Or anybody. Yep.
Yeah.
A combination. Yep. Yep.
So would you call a jet sweep of rushing plays? Like, so if Dylan got to like 2,900?
If we like shovel passes or being able to, if it's not direct handoff?
Well, we can't do the thumb Baruski anymore. So.
Which is a run.
No, I just want to know your opinion on that, and if you guys think it's possible.
Appreciate the call. For essentially, wait, the jet sweep to be considered a run, or the 3,400 of passing yards? The combination of it. I mean, it's a lot to put on a freshman, but yeah, I think the volume of as to what Nebraska is going to throw the ball to, more so than what we saw a year ago, and being able to take deep shots, I would say I like to use the word tangible.
Kevin may have been asking, so technically a jet sweep is a run.
Yeah.
So it goes down as a run. If not, Kurt Phillips would have thrown for 7 million yards in the Big Ten championship game.
Good point. Now, sometimes when you have...
So a shovel pass is a pass.
Yes.
But a jet sweep technically goes down as a run.
Mm-hmm. You get sometimes the jet sweep motion where you do the little shovel dump.
Okay, so I kind of think where he's going here. So let's say Nebraska runs a lot of jet sweeps. They're going to probably run it with wide receivers. So Nebraska has to get to 5,000 yards of total offense. I know John and Josh in the afternoons broke this down. I'm saying I'm going to look at just the running. And there's more running yards here. I'm just saying 3 guys to get to 1,600. If Nebraska can run for more than 1,600 yards, my phone is charging, so if you want to do the math, 12 games, that's still a little low. But if they have 3 guys that get to 1,600 yards, and then whatever happens after that, because they'll have many more guys. I mean, Raiola will have some rushing yards in there. He's not going to have the abundance of carries that Nebraska quarterbacks have had. I'm just looking at 3. Can you get 3 running backs that get you to 1,600? And then whatever is else on top of that with the rest of the guys that will carry the football is gravy.
Yeah. So your average is at 133 if it was 1,612 games.
For just those 3 guys.
For the 3 guys, right.
And then you add, I mean, you can't make a living with just 133 yards rushing per game. I mean, I don't know that they'll be similar to the numbers they had last year rushing. They will be more efficient in the quarterback handoff game than they were.
Yeah. Going to get to Chicago Bears camp coming up. They play Houston tonight to kick off the NFL preseason. Carmen DeFalco, ESPN 1000, joins us. Also, we'll be talking to Steve Sipple in the 8:30 time slot as we get into hour 3 here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. That'll be coming your way downtown Omaha, September 28th. Hey, speaking of whiskey, well, I know he's a fan. He's a bourbon fan as well. He's a Bears fan. He's unfortunately, a Chicago White Sox fan, but he is Chicago's own.
Let's start there.
Yeah, ESPN 1000's Carmen DeFalco joining us here on the 42 Degree Hotline. Good morning, Carm.
Hey, Carmen, something new.
Whiskey Fest.
Hey,
Whiskey Fest.
White Sox aren't very good.
I mean, it's it's gonna be. They're gonna. I don't know. I've never in my life, I don't think, can ever recall a time as a fan of a team where they've broken me to the point where I'm actually hoping for the record now, which is sad. And I hate saying it, but I'm actually. I hope they win 39 games. And then not even because, I think anything will change, because nothing will change while Jerry is the primary owner of this team. But I just, at this point, it's, I mean, what is the point? That's what I keep asking myself. It's, and it's been too many years of this, and the World Series was forever ago. And even that, I mean, it was as great as it was. It's 1 year in an otherwise dark abyss of being a longtime suffering White Sox fan. Outside that 2005 run, you guys realize they haven't won a playoff series since 1917. That's the team I cheer for. It's rough.
Okay, and we will shift into Bears here eventually. And if you want, we can talk about Whiskey Fest too. You can come on out here to Omaha on the 28th.
Like the sound of
Yeah.
that.
I was talking about this the other day, and I listened to you guys a lot, and so I was getting a lot of I was kind of taking my cue from how upbeat you and some of the other guys at ESPN 1000 that are more on the Sox side of things. Really 2019, and I was I still continue to be a huge Dylan Cease fan, but Giolito, the year that he was having, going into the COVID year too, and they get into that goofy playoff format, but that roster, that lineup, and the trajectory, I can imagine, which wasn't that long ago, Carm, where things now are, because that was about as positive and upbeat as I'm assuming White Sox fans had been for a while, if you go from 2019 to 2020, of how that roster was looking. And then here you are now at 3-4 short years later of the worst thing we've seen in a very, very long time in Major League Baseball.
I think that's what makes it hurt a little bit more. You're right. It's like the window was, I mean, I don't even know if you can call it a championship window. It was open so briefly. It disappeared in a flash. And so that probably adds to some of the pain of this. It did look promising, coming out of 19 and then 20. And then nobody could stay healthy. And a few of the things that, sort of the few things that scared you a little bit about some of the prospects they had started to come to fruition. Like Jesse Rodgers, who's our baseball reporter and one of the national baseball reporters with Tassin at ESPN.com, had always said that there was one person in the Cub organization that had told him the day of the trade, Eloy Jimenez will never be able to stay on the field. And when he looks back on it and he asks him, he said there was just a group of them within the organization and some of the medical people that said they used the term bad body. He's just got a bad body. That's come to fruition. The knock on Moncada was that he's a dog. And not the good dog, the bad one. He's an absolute dog.
Yeah.
He's just an absolute clubhouse cancer dog. I mean, and he can't stay healthy either. I mean, and everything, all of the worst things that you heard, this is what could derail it. And then also this, and it all started happening. They hired Tony La Russa, complete nonsense. 2 years ago, they interviewed Joe Espada. They hired Pedro Grifol instead. I mean, it's just, is it any wonder why they are where they are and why they've been what they've been? It's rough. So, and you're right. It disappeared so quickly, and you look back and you think, man, what a fall from grace that just a couple of years ago there was some promise, and there was they were one of the young darling stories around baseball. And Tim Anderson. Take a look at Tim Anderson's fall. You want to talk about a fall from grace?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you ever see anything like this?
Yeah.
I mean,
face of baseball.
He was on Sports Illustrated's cover 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's out of baseball. I mean, like, are you kidding? And there was some off the field stuff that helped contribute to that, unfortunately. That kind of mentally, I think, put him in a bad place. And so, yeah, it's just here we are. They're going to maybe 3 years later, they're going to, you're talking about a team that might set an all-time record for futility.
So there's promise with the Bears. Before we talk about that, as a Bears fan covering the Bears in a city that loves the Bears, what does it mean this weekend? I know there's Caleb Williams, there's the excitement of DJ Moore, but what does it mean to that fan base that in Canton, Devin Hester, Mongo, Steve McMichael, Julius Peppers are all going into Canton this weekend?
Yeah, it is pretty cool the way this lined up this year with those three, and I think people are probably more excited for. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, like, I'm most excited for Mongo, but I'm old enough to have remembered watching Mongo play and then working with Mongo. I did pre and post game for 15 years or 12 years with Mongo. I mean, he was a presence at our radio station for 20 years before he got sick a couple of years ago. So I think for a lot of us, like, that aspect of it is the coolest and most rewarding. And I think it's going to be the most emotional. It's already been, in a sense. So, and then for the younger, that's what's maybe even that's what's really special about it, guys. Is like it's you're checking a few boxes and you're covering a few different generations. For a lot of the younger fans, and even fans that might be too young to remember Devin, but that's who they know. Like, my son's 12. He doesn't remember Devin Hester, but he knows more about Devin Hester because he's heard it. He's heard his friends talk about it. He's heard his friends' dads talk about it. So you've got like this huge range of in this big, these couple different generations that have like players they remember distinctly that are going in, and I think that's what's making it very cool and unique and special. And it's not often that you get to see this many guys tied to one organization going at the same time. So that will be fun. It'll be cool. We were there. We're not going to be there this weekend. We were there, but I remember back in 2018 when Urlacher went in and how much fun that was. And it was my first time ever in Canton seeing the Hall of Fame. I usually am like, you've seen one, you've seen them all, but it was cool. I mean, I remember walking out of there saying, I'm glad we did this. And they were really, they rolled out the red carpet for us. We were with Tommy Waddle and Yurko, who worked with us as well and both played in the league. And they gave us a little behind the scenes tour, and they made a special note of saying that they have I don't know what's the right way to put it, memorabilia, artifacts, whatever it is. They have something from any player that's ever taken a snap in the NFL. And when they took us into this back room on this huge desk, they had laid out a bunch of different stuff from Waddle and Yurko's playing career. Here were two like grinder guys, right?
Yeah.
They had stuff from like combine results from when Yurko was at the combine. They had a bunch of green. I mean, Yurko did play in 110 games, I think, in the league. They had stuff. They had some box scores, some playoff box score stuff highlighted with his. It was really cool. Yeah, like they had it in their archive room. And it was, and they were even, I think, like sort of blown away by it when they were looking at all of it. So it was a fun experience, and I know a lot of Bear fans will be there this weekend.
Do they have smelling salt for Waddle?
That's good. That would have been the thing that needed more than anything else. Here are the smelling salts you used in that one game at Minnesota in 1991.
Right. Talking to Carmen DeFalco with Carmen and Yurko, ESPN 1000. Not the fact that Caleb Williams isn't starting. You're going to have to wait at least another preseason game, possibly. And even the entire starters, that wasn't the big news this week with this current roster. It's the fact that DJ Moore got paid. And look, Carter, I love this. I think DJ Moore's a stud. I think that the trio of wide receivers could be very special there. And dare I say, this seemed a little un-Bears-like. And so now I direct the attention to Ryan Poles. You've watched him operate the roster. What's been your assessment so far, especially coming off of this latest move that keeps a very good weapon in Chicago for years.
Yeah, I think it was good. And I was sort of out on an island on this, saying that it was going to happen. I'm glad it happened. It actually makes me look like I know something. That's good. That's rare. I was getting pushback from the other guys a lot. Like there's no way that doesn't make sense. They don't need to. He's got 2 years left. I kind of heard that that this was something that potentially could happen and something Ryan Poles really wanted to make happen for a couple of reasons. I think because he not only is he a stud, they love what he brought into that locker room and what he's going to continue to bring into that locker room. They were blown away by him. He always practices. He's at all the off-season stuff the last couple of years. He's just a badass. Like, he's the good dog, we were talking about before. He's the good one. Those are the guys they want. And so not only is he a very, very good player in his prime, and they've got this young quarterback they want to help develop, they completely love his attitude and what he means and the way he practices and the way he plays. And so they wanted to do this, and they wanted to try to beat the market a little bit just in case something were to happen in the next year and a half where, listen, it's going to happen. Wide receiver salaries probably aren't going to be scaled back. I think in their mind, it made even a little financial sense to try to beat the market and not wait a year and a half or 2 full years to where he was going to be a free agent. And when you look at the life of the deal now, I mean, it's pretty reasonable. In terms of an AAV, I mean, it gives him a nice raise, but it's pretty reasonable considering what happened with wide receiver salaries this offseason. The timeline works out, I think, quite well. If Rome Odunze is a stud and you've got to think about paying him in 4 or 5 years, the timeline's going to benefit you probably in terms of how you're going to be able to handle that cap-wise. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I like that they did it. It is a little un-Bears-like, and it's a lot of most organizations don't want to go to guys with 2 years left because they're a little afraid of the precedent. But I think what Ryan Poles would tell you guys is we'll break the mold with it because he means that much to our culture right now. And so I think it was a good deal. I think most of what he's done has been good, and he's kind of earned the benefit of the doubt right now. I mean, not everything's going to be perfect with GMs, even the very good ones. So there's been some misses in here, but I think by and large, people are pretty encouraged about the way he's put this team together.
A lot of intrigue with the skill positions on offense where almost a rookie quarterback doesn't have to carry the team. How good can this offense be this year?
I think it could be good if they can protect him. I do. I mean, there's still some moving parts on the offensive line. They can't keep Nate Davis on the practice field. That's another issue that they're trying to work through. And what that means for the start of the season, I don't know. We'll see. But I think the center issues will be cleaned up. They maybe you could say they bargain shopped a little, and maybe they did, but it's going to be better than last year. It'd be almost impossible not to be. So you get some of the center issues cleaned up, and if Darnell Wright in the second year can, if he can stay sort of on the trajectory that we saw, especially in the back half of last year, and if Braxton Jones in his third year can continue to get better, and they really like him, they're very, very high on him. If that all comes together properly, I think it could be good. And then at some point, you might need scheme and protection assignments to help you there. If you don't have the luxury of just saying, hey, we've got the 5 best, if you're not going to be the Lions, if you're not going to be the Eagles, if you're not going to be prime Dallas a few years ago, then figure it out scheme-wise a little bit. And I think that's why Shane Waldron's here, to try to get the absolute best and most efficient things out of this offense. But assuming Caleb can stay upright, and I think he will be, and I think his athleticism is a little bit of an advantage there too, and assuming he's even close to what we all hope and expect him to be, I do think this offense can be good. I mean, this is the most prolific that they can be in a long time. I mean, matching very, very few seasons in Bears history. They appear to have health, assuming some health, knock on wood. They have some real talent on that offensive side of the ball this year.
Carm, going to the other side of it too, between Matt Eberflus and Eric Washington. I was looking at the way this defense stacks up. You have Montez Sweat. I'm not even going to try to say that he was a 2018 Khalil Mack type of guy, but he's an impact guy up front. But that defense, much like when that Fangio defense came together, was pretty young. And they started getting a little bit more experience, started getting a little older. You start seeing guys that were maybe somewhat forgotten about, like a Jack Sanborn, all of a sudden playing big-time football. it seems like there is a similar trajectory of this defense that with the youth and being young, but still having some studs like a Jalen Johnson, it's a little bit reminiscent of that without having that major splash of Khalil Mack. Do you see it trending that way with this defense to where they're going to be a big part of what the Bears do going forward from a success standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's finally, for the first time in a long time, probably since those 18, 19 defenses, I think that like there's some, there's how's the way I want to put it? There are playmakers at every level. Let's say that. And this defense just hasn't had it. And if you're going to be any sort of top 10-ish defense and any even better than that, potentially dominant defense, you kind of have to have difference makers at every level. And they're back to having that. Sweat has been wrecking guys in training camp. Like sometimes it's good, right? Because it's, you got a stud. It can be bad because it's like, man, how bad is the offensive line going to be? And stop wrecking practice, Montez. But it's like that's where coaches get to the point. Like Yurko always worries about Reggie if he was in a bad mood to start like really practicing, and the coaches would be like, "Hey, stop! Like you're wrecking practice right now. It's like you got to stop." So Sweat had a really good camp. Like he's the guy on that side that has stood out. I still wonder like how they supplement him on the other side of the line. Like if I were going to be slightly critical or just about the roster construction or even just point out what could be a weakness, I'm not sure they have a pass rusher opposite of him.
Right.
Maybe it's Austin Booker who they drafted out of Kansas and they like a lot. He hasn't played a lot of football. He played like 500 snaps. It's like, wow, that's really not a lot. So who knows? He's more sort of in the project territory. So I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe Dexter going into year 2, coming out of Florida, learning how to play a different style of defense. He goes from playing 2-gap in college to playing 1-gap here in an even man front. So, okay, you give him a year to kind of learn it because there are differences. And, maybe he's the guy who maybe your pass rush gets better just on the interior instead of the edge. Maybe he blossoms into like a really good penetrating 3 technique that they need to have on this defense. So it could come from there, but that'd be my only real concern. Like where else is your pass rush coming from? Everywhere else they're pretty good. Linebackers are solid. And you mentioned some of the guys in the secondary. Like there's you'd like to get, hopefully Kyler Gordon gets back on the field here soon, but he's been a little bit banged up. Like they've got some ballers, slot wise, outside. I mean, they got some ballers in that secondary. So I think, again, in the NFL, we know how this goes. It's kind of a war of attrition sometimes, but if you stay healthy and those guys are on the field, yeah, this is a top 10 fringy, top 5 defense, if you ask me.
Carm, great stuff as always. Always appreciate you coming on, talking some Bears and the occasional White Sox. I guess it's an anecdote now, but hey, you still got a good glass of bourbon whenever you need it, right?
That is very, very true. And there's been plenty of nights this summer where I'm like, forget the White Sox. I'll just, pour a glass of bourbon instead. I've adopted the Padres, like we've got a little running gag. We got a little running gag. We started at the beginning. I mean, not that any of us saw 39 wins potentially, but we knew how much they were going to stink. And we're just so down on them as a franchise. A few of us said, let's just start being Padre fans. And we started a little group chat called Friar Fan Club. And it's like somewhat of a bit on the air, but now that the Padres, I think, are legit in the NL right now. Now we're like watching Padre games every night on the West Coast. So like, we really are Padre fans now. This is our team. That's it. We've adopted them.
Love it. Hey, all the best, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys.
It's Carmen DeFalco with Carmen and Yurko, ESPN 1000s, middays. Great stuff there. And yes, as you can tell, I mean, he grew up a diehard South Sider. So, I mean, you could hear it in his voice as we said, hey, White Sox. They're god-awful. Let's talk about your whiskey thing going on instead.
I mean,
it's bad.
There is sadness with the Royals today. Even though the month of August begins and they have the 3rd best run differential in the American League, and they're 11 games over 500, they're done with the White Sox.
I know.
And it was 12-1 against the White Sox.
And what did Bobby Witt do against them? At one point, was he 13 of 16?
Yeah. Bobby Witt just wrapped up one of the greatest months in the history of baseball. I think there's a lot of optimism for your football team, and I'm happy for you. There's a subtle thing about DJ Moore, and everybody wants to get paid. And, wide receivers are really getting paid these days. And there was a sense of urgency from the Bears that I haven't seen, that they do this earlier than later. So it's a smart play. But even with the money that was given to DJ Moore, I think the guy likes happiness. He would not have done this early if he didn't see something in Caleb Williams. So I think that's a positive sign on where Caleb Williams is initially in his rookie year, is that a guy like DJ Moore says, I'll stick around. But it also tells me something else about DJ Moore. Really, Carolina, Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Bryce Young.
That's what you got out of that whole thing, between the number one pick and also parting with DJ Moore. As soon as when Carmen was talking about the character part of it, because I think you're right. There's you see something in Caleb Williams, but also there's a reason he saw that even before they were going to mini camps and whatnot. Because remember, it was him that was essentially following Caleb Williams all over the place. He was one of the first guys that was there for the pro day, but also, so he actually goes to the pro day. But then when he made the visit into Chicago, not only is DJ Moore there, but also Keenan Allen is there. So I don't know how rare that is when you haven't even drafted the guy yet, but all signs point to getting him, that your number one that you currently have on the roster and a new addition that has been a number one before in Keenan Allen are all there watching the guy, supporting the guy, already starting a conversation before he even hears his name on draft night. That's pretty cool. And that was led by DJ Moore. So I had to think back to when they've had at least a two-headed monster that was a formidable one. And you really got to go back to like Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey when they had that in the 2012-13 run, and Alshon could never stay healthy. Now you've got, if Roma Dunze works out the way that I think a lot of people would think, and it sounds like he and Caleb Williams are having a great connection already in camp, got three guys on top of what I think is probably a little bit overlooked tight end in Cole Kmet. Much different than what Justin Fields came into, where he had Darnell Mooney, who's a number two, was his number one when he comes in thrown in the fire to try to save Nagy's job. So this is a much better situation for Caleb Williams coming into than what Justin Fields. Now, what does that mean? There's also that division much better than it was when Justin Fields was making his start as well. That division was a lot more wide open as far as teams. Now you've got, if we believe Minnesota and Chicago kind of battle for the worst team, you're still looking at teams from a projection standpoint that you think can exceed at least 7 to 8 wins on top of the power that's going to be Detroit and Green Bay. So that might be the only disappointing thing, is they could look very, very good and very improved, but can you do the whole worst to first like they did?
Well, it's happened in the NFL.
17. Yeah, it happened to them.
It's a lot more reasonable in the NFL than any other sport.
Last time they were in the playoffs, it happened to them. So I can dream. I can dream.
No, you should. They've constructed especially one side of the ball so that it's not all on Caleb Williams.
Yep. I totally agree. All right, Steve Sipple joins us on the other side of the break. We'll get his thoughts on what he took from Media Day, and it is day number 2 of Nebraska Fall Camp. Sip joins us. We're going to be talking to David Cobb of CBSSports.com, get his thoughts on the early camps, especially in the SEC. And we will also talk to Brian Edwards. All ahead here on 1620 The Zone. Moving through hour 3, mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy here on 1620 The Zone. Time to get our weekly conversation in with the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Sipple of On 3 and 93.7 The Ticket. Good morning, Sip. How are things in Lincoln in the last 12 hours as far as the storms that we know? Are you good? Everything good?
Well, I wouldn't say everything's good for everybody. I know just anecdotal evidence of people that don't have power. I think it's down here to 6,000 or so without power, which isn't an insignificant number. It's not like what you guys have. But I think what we got was very similar to what you got. But I'm driving home right now. I'm driving down Vine, so I'll probably lose you here shortly. But it's not. It doesn't even look like there's a storm. In some parts, you can drive a few blocks and you can't even tell there was a storm. But then you'll come up on a big tree down or a lot of branches in a yard, that sort of thing. So the recovery is going to take a while.
That's fair. Yeah, we're down to what was it, 120,000 without power?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got a lot more than us. Like I said, 6,000 here. But I know a few people who don't have it.
Yeah, you're talking to one. Okay.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
Well, I would hope so.
It's never come back here.
I got some good meat in the freezer there, Sip. I need it to come back.
48 hours. You're okay right now.
Oh, hey, when I lived in Hurricane Alley, I learned how long you could lose power with your fridge. Before we get into some of the stuff that was said this week, this is a thing that I think is kind of fascinating, and maybe the question answers itself. As Rule begins his second fall camp, and you know how he feels about this team, they show him running stairs with guys. Why do you think, Sip, that during the time that Rule has taken over, I don't know that we have ever brought up or wondered, wow, I wonder what the culture is going to be like. I mean, their culture is really, really good. And we haven't even broached the subject of, well, I wonder if we can get the culture right. Why do you think that's the case?
I think it's probably because he took control of it from the start and started putting mechanisms in place to help the process along. And that, like, one element of that is, the hires, like Corey Campbell, key hire, your strength coach and your head coach, largely established culture. Of course, your head coach and your strength coach. Mm-hmm. So I think there's that. But I also think I don't like to have these conversations without crediting the players, because they bought in, obviously, pretty. What's nice, but I'll tell you something. These are real tricky conversations for media, and I catch myself lapsing into these sentences where I act like I'm around the team, which I'm not. My sense of it is the culture's very good. A lot of it's just our sense of it, and what we hear, and that can be controlled pretty easily in social media these days. And I'm not suggesting that it's not real, but I think it's real for the reasons that I identified. Rule took control of it quickly. I think there was good buy-in. I don't think it was perfect, because it never is. Okay, I've heard instances where it wasn't perfect, but instances with this team where it wasn't perfect, but it was good. But I don't want to go too far. Because I want to see how they do against Colorado before I go too far.
Well, wow, you've already skipped over UTEP.
Yeah, I did skip over UTEP. I shouldn't. I honestly shouldn't. I usually don't do that. And I'm not suggesting that they have a walk-over game, because Nebraska doesn't deserve that kind of respect. They don't. We do that still. I'm amazed we still do it with Purdue and Illinois. Yeah, it's just Purdue and Illinois. Oh yeah, you haven't watched the last 5 years, apparently, because those teams have beat Nebraska pretty regularly, but in some cases. So I think the culture's good, and I think you got a coach who's a dynamic, intentional leader. I mean, but I'll tell you something. I thought that about Frost early on, so who knows what will happen.
Well, it brings me to this question of when we were listening to both Tony White talk, and I'll say even more interesting enough, Marcus Satterfield, when he talked about O-line, when it was asked the question if he's had a group like that, depth like that he said never. Did that stand out to you as well? I mean, is it okay to start to believe a little bit in what's going on up there in the front?
Yeah, it's just talk, though, Nick. I mean, it is. It's just talk. I mean, I get it. It all sounds so good, and it sounds really good to me. It does, but I've really been bitten hard by this. Like this, that talk always sounds so good. I was surprised though he said that, because I don't think the O-line depth. I think the O-line depth's pretty good. I didn't see it as great. I don't see it as great. I think the D-line depth is borderline very good to great.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see that as up front on offense quite as much. I mean, I'm talking about they have guys. They have guys, but are there guys that can come in and where you see no drop off at all? I like the frontline players. I like them, but do I love them? No. How could you? I mean, what have they done? I mean, they're 5-7 last year. What are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did a good job running the ball. And there was that, but no, I don't. There's nothing really about the team that I can say that I love.
There's got to be a couple of players. I want your list of love them players.
I'm sorry.
You like some guys, but you also have to have a couple of guys that you love. That you think are dudes that might be, because you and I are in agreement here. If Nebraska wants to be the defense they are talking about, there got to be some all-conference guys on that side of the ball. And there are some potential guys, but they don't have anybody right now. But who are guys on this roster that you absolutely love? You have no doubt about they're going to show up every Saturday with their lunch pail.
I love the picture up front. Love it on defense. I do. I love the Nash, Ty, Jamari Butler. I love that picture. And you know what else I love? I love Butler-Lenhart combination. That Cam Lenhart comes in for Butler. I mean, those are two serious football players. And we've seen some good Jamari Butler, but that's I'm really looking forward to seeing what that picture looks like this year. Cam Lenhart, same. We've seen pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Young guy comes on the scene. I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to James Williams. I'm really looking forward to James Williams coming off the edge, because I think that's going to look. I think it's going to shock people. So that I like that group. I don't think we talk about Javin Wright nearly enough. I don't know why. He had 51 tackles last year. It doesn't sound like we ever mention him, but I love that length and his striking ability. I think he'll be a guy we talk about more.
Mm-hmm.
And Tommy Hill. I mean, I'd say those are guys I really like on that side of the ball. I really like Banks on offense. And Fedoni. I mean, I have a high degree of trust. This is what you're talking about, is trust.
Mm-hmm.
It always comes down to that for me. Do I trust him? Do I trust that player? All those guys I mentioned, I trust. I know they're going to be there. I know they're showing up on Saturday, and they're going to make plays. And I know that about Fedoni. I mean, and Banks is proven. And I think Fedoni will go to another level this year.
Talking to Steve Sipple here on 1620 The Zone. Sip, one guy, I don't know if you mentioned him or not, and I know everyone is high on him, And I want to get your thoughts on the importance of having this guy in the secondary with the timing of bringing in a new secondary coach and John Butler, the Isaac Gifford presence in that room.
I should have mentioned Gifford. Yeah, I should have mentioned Gifford.
I figured you did. Having that presence for a guy that is coming into a room and really getting into it. We know the experience that John Butler has, but having a guy that seems to be the sounding board of that secondary and can back it up with his play on the field means what to that, if you could call it any type of continuity or at least seamless transition from one defensive back coach to the next?
It means everything. I mean, he's a veteran player who shows up every single day and had 86 tackles last year, which is 35 more than anybody. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gifford, I should have mentioned Gifford. I'm remiss not to mention Isaac Gifford. You can't mention everybody, but Gifford is, he's critical to this whole secondary picture with this new coach coming in and the challenges that inherent in that situation. It really helps, though. It's not just Gifford. I mean, it's Tommy Hill's a veteran player. Marquise Buford's a veteran player. Singleton's a veteran player. They're all over. They have a lot of critical veteran players, and that helps so much in that situation. But it's still challenging, and we'll see how that looks. I mean, it's definitely challenging, and you know, as usual, and this is what you do as a head coach or as a coordinator like Tony. You portray it in a positive light. But we'll see. Now, I will say this. Rule's pretty good about portraying things that aren't positive in an appropriate manner. So Rule will tell you if things aren't going right. It's one of his most endearing qualities, in my opinion. He'll tell you that Mazuka started slow, you know, in the spring. He told us. And I appreciate that level of honesty. By the way, Mazuka's not going slow anymore. I mean, Mazuka is absolutely a player to watch this month.
Yeah, the bell went off. I mean, I think he got a welcome. We do things different in Nebraska in the spring.
The bell went off, though.
I want to go back to Buddha. And he's a great story. Javen Wright. I called him Buddha. This is a kid, Sip. You know this, but I want to remind people, a guy that's going to play an important position this year, that with his length, his athleticism, his speed is at the right position for him on defense. This is a kid that has had an MCL tear. He's had tendon tears. He's had labrum surgery. He also had an issue with blood clots. He never quit football, never left. He stayed. He played last year. Knock on wood, he was healthy, and you got to see glimpses, not the full package. Answer your own question. Why do you think he doesn't get more run? Because him and Gifford are going to be huge on that defense.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because it's a great story.
Yeah, it is. I guess I would try to answer it this way. He played a position with Reimer and Henrich. Those guys were so critical, you know, to the culture of the team. They were productive. Reimer was incredibly productive. Nick was productive and just such a great leader. So he existed in their shadow a little bit. And then Bullock too. I mean, John Bullock, to a certain extent, I think he existed in his shadow for whatever reason. He should. Mm-hmm. I mean, the way I look at Wright is, I mean, well, I guess he's one of the best. If you just look at guys coming off the bus, his physical appearance is incredible, and his physical ability is he's a great athlete, fast, long levered, 6'5" kid that can run 220. He's a beautiful athlete, is what I'm saying, and he strikes you. And I think he's big in the turnover discussion. We saw it last year.
Yeah, with the interception of Maryland was a big one.
Yeah. I mean, he can get you. He can get you hard turnovers. I mean, eye-popping type turnovers. And I do not want to. I want to emphasize too. he strikes you. He's a hitter. I mean, that's what Bill Bush coached him, and he emphasizes that. We all know, or the older people like Nick and Gary, we remember his father, who was one of the all-time hitters.
Yeah, he was a hit stick. Toby was a hit sticker, man.
And his son inherited that. His son loves football, and you're right. He is a great story. So yeah, I like it. I like the length. You know, and anybody who listens to my show knows that I favor taller players. I love that length. So yeah, I mean, I think they're set at inside linebacker. I think they're in pretty good shape there.
Sip, before I let you go, I think we overshot when this announcement came out as far as the type of attendance that could be there on Saturday to watch practice. But what's your overall anticipation of maybe the better question is, will we see them do more things like this even this season?
Even this season?
Yeah. Any type of extra content that maybe you got to pay for, but you feel like you got access.
I don't know. Yeah, this season, that's a good question, actually. I guess my immediate reaction, Nick, would be it wouldn't surprise me if they did more stuff like this to get the fans involved. It would make sense to me. I don't know exactly what it would look like. I'm like you. I thought this would maybe be, you're probably hearing the same sort of thing I'm hearing. I thought this would go over with a little bit more enthusiasm. Maybe enthusiasm will grow after the fact. It shows me there's still a little bit of hesitancy to go all in. And I have felt that from the fan base for months. I think people are excited, but there's a halting. You know, what you heard from me today, frankly. I love this head coach and the way he goes about things, but you know, Saturdays, it's always been the case. Saturdays have always been the thing that matters, but it's in the last couple seasons, it's never been more true in my mind. Just show me what it's all about on Saturday afternoon or night, whatever the game is.
Yeah, I mean that's why you're going to enjoy the next month lead up to a game before they actually play something. I know you'll love it. You'll embrace it.
I'll be fine, but I really look forward to August 31. I really do.
Hey, I said this yesterday, Sip. They have something going, but I need it to go from the stove to the table sooner than later.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's really fascinating conversation. These are, because I'm not rushing this along. I want to see good football, but I'm not going to be demanding in year two, except for this. It looks like they have a pretty good team. You know, they do. So, you know, you want to see them. It's just what it is every year. Just maximize what you got. And if they do that, it could be pretty good.
Yep, I agree. Sip, as always, appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Enjoy. I know you'll be watching Bud's fight on Saturday as well.
Yeah, I think I am going to watch that.
Yes. All right. Be good, my friend.
All right. Take care.
You Sip. Yeah, with again, for people that maybe aren't catching up to the attendance turnout, I think now you're hoping that you can get maybe 5 in the door, 5,000 that is. We'll be in West Stadium, and I don't know if this season goes a lot better and you do something again. This becomes an annual thing. That first weekend of opening camp, does it become a little bit more of a must-see type thing? Not even just because I want to see what's going on in practice, but I want to be able to show more support. I don't know if I'd bank on that or not. And I think a lot of it probably does have to do what's actually going on that weekend when you do schedule something like this too. But it ain't going to hurt. I mean, I would assume that, let's say Nebraska rattles off a 7 or 8 win season and you're feeling great about going into that 25 season. You pull off another event like this, which I would assume would be an annual thing. Do all of a sudden you start moving that expectation towards, okay, can we at least get 10 to 15? And all of a sudden, before you know it, you've got this rare thing where you get inside access, and then you're able to elevate that. And maybe that's just the impact. I mean, we keep saying about at some point the results on the field are going to drive you across the finish line when it comes to a lot of things that matter, when it comes to getting more NIL donations, getting certain recruits in, all of that. At some point, what happens on the field matters, and maybe there is some reluctance to that as well. When we come back, I got to take a quick break. We will be talking some more college football. David Cobb in just about 10 minutes. Get to some tweets and some of your thoughts. Also, one of the coolest, a lot of buzz about the Dylan Raiola arrival and how much he looks like Patrick Mahomes, in case you didn't know. But there was, I think, even a better video that was put out by a college football team with their entrance to camp that is reminiscent. In fact, it's an exact depiction of a very, very popular sports movie that we'll get into as well here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley. I'm going to talk to David Cobb of CBSSports.com, covering the SEC here in just a little bit. Also, he dabbles in some Big Ten football, just college football heads over there. One of the coolest things that was put out yesterday, it didn't get as much attention as the Dylan Raiola Patrick Mahomes comparison, but it was the University of Buffalo, as they report day one of fall camp. They did maybe the coolest video, and they did an exact recreation of the scene as the Cleveland Indians reporting to camp in the movie Major League. You even go to the point where they say, I thought you said we didn't have any high-priced talent. And so each guy that shows up,
he's just high price.
Yeah. Now they don't knock any of their guys, but then they do get their Willie Mays Hayes guy, which is a Mays, by the way, too. And he goes, I plan to put on a catching display. Like it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's just three. You got two coaches. You got someone with the athletic training staff. They're just sitting out there watching everybody roll into the facility. Oh, it's so good. You even got a Serrano look-alike as well. It's well done, Buffalo. Well done. See, college football, they're getting into it now. All these different. This is all to the content creative folks too. Of the social media, Nebraska does it extremely well. Whether it's a series of videos and docuseries or it's just being really creative with your social media. Like this, I thought that was amazing.
Didn't they lose their head coach?
Yeah.
So they were 3-9 last year. Didn't DeBoer hire him? Mm-hmm. Isn't he a position coach at Alabama? He left being the head coach at Buffalo to go be a position coach at Alabama?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. Just got to get the vibe going a little bit there, too.
Well, they were 3-9 last year.
Maybe that's why. Because, look at this guy. Or
it's my kind of team, Charlie. It's my kind of team.
Well, it's also, a program that if you see their stadium, like I don't know if you follow, you're not. Are you on TikTok, Jimmy?
I am.
So G-Fed is a guy who
I know who
he walks onto fields. So he went and did Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's like a high school stadium.
They probably didn't stop him.
There's not much to that stadium.
Yeah.
Lance Leipold won there, and that says a lot because it's hard to win at Buffalo.
Well, look at you go there and you win.
You go somewhere else.
Turner went there.
You go to Kansas. Apparently, that's the rule.
I mean, Lance Leipold was a great hire for them. He was rolling. What, he had a 10-win season there?
Yep.
Yeah. Kid Jared Patterson rushed for like 2,000 yards in a game.
Yeah. In the 1 year, so his last year there.
It's actually 400.
Last year I think Buffalo finished ranked in the top 25. They didn't play many games because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure they were a top 25 team when he left.
So
it's like one of those jobs that's in the MAC that could be a stepping stone job. You know, like Toledo is one of those places.
Yep.
Matt Campbell, Sean Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, until Lindquist got there, and then he had the one winning season. When they played Nebraska, they weren't a very, very good team. They didn't end up having a good season.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were 3-9 last year, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Alabama. I'll make more money as an Alabama position coach than I will as the head coach at Buffalo.
Yeah.
And plus, it doesn't snow in Tuscaloosa.
And you don't play on Tuesday nights.
No, only if you buy in a bag.
You're playing on Tuesday night in Tuscaloosa. It's because of COVID.
Something bad happened.
COVID.
Yep.
They had to move a game.
Yep. That's probably
SEC
it.
Tuesdays.
Speaking of the SEC, going to talk some of that and college football with David Cobb. Also got Brian Edwards. Before we get out of here, hour 4 is coming up here on 1620 The Zone. Got a little power update, too. What did you say, 108,000 now? We're down to 108,000?
Without power.
Without power.
I'm one of those, along with many.
I'm waiting for the good news that you're like, I got it. I'm hoping it'll happen before we get off the air today. But it started at 220,000 last night, down to 108,000. So they're chipping away. But we will pass on any more information as we get it from last night's storms. Talking some college football here with the SEC. Fun times, the SEC new additions with Oklahoma and Texas. SEC Media Days kicking off the talking season. We had Big Ten Media Days last week. Happy to welcome on to the show David Cobb of CBS Sports, CBSSports.com, covering college football and the SEC. Good morning, David. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I am doing fine. Sorry to hear about your weather calamities out there. Hope everything gets back up and running soon.
Hey, we're here, and we're leaning on you to get us through some of the problems. So no pressure, okay, on this segment.
Yeah, no pressure at all. Hey, I've got a good Wi-Fi, good electricity, and hopefully I can bring a little joy.
Hey, rub that in. All right. Hey, I know you were present during the talking season. SEC Media Days taking place, and it's interesting as we get into this season, not just for the SEC and the Big Ten with the new additions, and obviously the ACC now going from a Power 5 to a Power 4, but with the playoff as well. The excitement level of what could be in this season, I know was talked about before all of the conference media days, but walking away from a lot of the talking season that took place these last couple of weeks, your excitement level, your expectation level for this unprecedented season.
Yeah, I'm as excited for this college football season as I have been for any in a long time, because it just feels as though there's going to be a greater amount of significance for more regular season games than there ever has been. And I realize there is the fear or the worry that perhaps, Michigan and Ohio State, maybe they'll play the last week of the regular season and then they'll rematch in the Big Ten championship game. Then they'll play again in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
There are bugs and wrinkles that will need to be worked out. But by and large, I love the idea that there's going to be 25, 30 teams playing meaningful games late into November that have playoff implications. And so that's a new wrinkle to college football that I think is going to keep a wider part of the nation engaged for deeper into the season. And so that's exciting. I'm really fired up to sort of see how it all plays out.
And it expands, so there are more people that have hope, and there are going to be new teams that are on the horizon, and their expectations are going to rise. I want to go right to, because you're one of them, you're an Ole Miss guy. Is it time for Lane Kiffin in year 5 with his nemesis now at ESPN? Is it time for Lane Kiffin to prove it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a all the chips pushed to the middle of the table sort of moment for Ole Miss and for Lane Kiffin, because they have invested heavily on bolstering the defensive side of the ball, particularly at the line of scrimmage. When you bring in a guy like Walter Nolan, that's taking up a hefty chunk of your NIL resources. And when you're pouring that sort of money into it, it suggests this is the year for Ole Miss to strike. And it's just probably a situation there at Ole Miss where they don't have quite the war chest of a Georgia or of an Ohio State or of a Michigan and Oregon now. However, they're going to channel and marshal the resources that they do have into this year's roster, maybe at the detriment of next year's roster or the 2026 roster, because of what's required to go out and get the Walter Nolan type of talent that they've gone out and gotten on the defensive side. So this is hey, maybe if not now, then when sort of moment for Ole Miss to have that, that breakthrough and that SEC title hunt and that college football playoff hunt. I mean, those things are very much on the table, and Ole Miss is making no qualms about the fact that this is their year to try and go after those things.
We saw Oklahoma take a jump after Venables having kind of a lackluster debut with Oklahoma. Now they transition into the SEC. We know there's going to be a lot of buzz about Texas, not only from the brand standpoint, but also having that college football playoff representation. Oklahoma, though, as far as them coming into the SEC, is getting what type of buzz, what type of response, in your opinion?
It's pretty measured. The hype around Oklahoma is limited. It's through the roof with Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Texas make the college football playoff, and there's aspirations that they'll be right back there in the semifinals and maybe even playing for the whole thing. But with Oklahoma, I think it's largely due to the schedule that you're seeing them picked more towards the middle of the middle of the pack in the SEC. A proud program coming off of a 10-win season. That's not where they're used to being picked in the conference preseason poll, but this is a new day. This is not the Big 12 anymore. This is an SEC schedule that is really, really tough. And I think that schedule is part of the reason why you're seeing the measured expectations around the Sooners, because when you got to play at Ole Miss and at Missouri, historically speaking, those you wouldn't look at those games and say, oh, well, that's super difficult.
Yeah.
But you add those to a Tennessee and to an Alabama and an LSU, with the way Missouri and Ole Miss are expected to be this year, all of a sudden, that schedule, which historically you might not have looked at and thought was very tough, with Ole Miss and Missouri being in the position they are in, you look at it this year and you say that is a really, really tough draw for the Sooners during their first year in the league.
So if Florida has another losing season, I think the swamp actually will sink, because I don't think that's ever happened at Florida. So we know Billy Napier's on the hot seat, and he's 11-14 in his 2 years. 2 questions, David, on Florida. 1, why hasn't it worked? And then 2, with the new SEC that brings in Oklahoma and Texas, and Ole Miss has gotten better, and Alabama and Georgia aren't going anywhere, and Brian Kelly's in Baton Rouge, where should Florida be in the expanded SEC?
Florida still has the resources, the history, the talent base in terms of recruiting there in Florida to be an upper echelon, perennial, or every other year type of playoff team in this 12-team era. Part of the reason why it hasn't worked so far is that it took them a while to get their NIL in order. You remember coming off of the Dan Mullen era, recruiting was the big knock on Dan Mullen, who was a really good in-game schematic coach, a really good offensive coach, but he didn't recruit at the caliber that Florida wanted. So you come off a couple of years of lean recruiting, you get in Billy Napier, but then the NIL isn't in order, and now you've stacked several years of not quite elite recruiting, and you're trying to dig out of a hole with talent that is just isn't quite up to that Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and now Texas sort of level. And so that's been the hurdle for Billy Napier to overcome. And you're still trying to overcome that hurdle as you look at what I believe and what I've written about is the toughest schedule of the 21st century in college football. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. Look at November. They got 5 games against teams that are projected to be in the top 20. So it's going to be really, they're going to have to grade Billy Napier on a curve this year. Normally 6-6 or 7-5 in year 3 there would be enough to get you fired, but I think making a bowl game against this schedule would be enough to get Billy Napier another year.
I do want to get into a couple of ACC things here too, but real quickly on Missouri and the SEC. Last time they had back-to-back top 10 finishes in the AP poll was 68-69. I don't think anybody is looking at Missouri necessarily as a team that is going to be able to do that this year, although the stock is high on them. Not even necessarily even this year, David, but this Missouri program and Eli Drinkwitz and what they're doing now that the SEC is divisionless and everything, is this sustainable in your opinion?
I think Missouri is a program that has to work to cycle up every 3rd or 4th year. They're not a program that is going to perennially recruit top 10 classes nationally. So they've got to hit on important in-state products. One example of that right now on their roster is Luther Burton, stud receiver who would have been able to go anywhere he wanted to in the country, but Missouri has a pretty good NIL setup. Mm-hmm. He stayed in state, and he's going to be arguably the best receiver in the SEC this season, maybe one of the best receivers in college football. So you got to hit on those guys when they come up out of the St. Louis or Kansas City areas. And, Eli Drinkwitz has done a good job there. But you're not going to have that guy beyond this year. He's going to go to the NFL draft. So it's a situation where for Missouri, I think it's an every 3rd or 4th year sort of thing for them. And their big question this year, to me at least, is replacing Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator who helped turn that entire program around over the last 2 seasons. He's now at LSU. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great hire for LSU, but it leaves Missouri with a little bit of a question on the defensive side of the ball at a time when they're losing a lot of their defensive production from a really good team last year.
Let's stop in the ACC. Miami. Are you buying what they're selling that Miami could be a dark horse favorite?
I actually am. It's crazy because we have this conversation, it feels like, about Miami every year, whether or not the U is back. And boy, we thought they were back under Mark Richt, and we thought they were back under Manny Diaz. And they hired Mario Cristobal, so they are definitely back now. And yet here we are going into year 3, and he's 12-13 overall. So I get the skepticism for those who need to see it to believe it. Totally understand. But when you look at what they did in the portal, bringing in Cam Ward at quarterback, bringing in Damian Martinez at running back, and then bringing back some really high caliber players in the front 7 of the defense, Miami does have what it needs to make noise and challenge for the ACC title. Really, it's a matter of, can Cristobal get out of his own way? I mean, he's been his own worst enemy with failing to kneel the football and some other poor in-game game management type of decisions. And I think if he gets out of his own way a little bit and lets Cam Ward cook and lets Damian Martinez run wild and frees that defense up to go chase the football, Miami's got all the talent that it needs to win the ACC.
David, lastly, and we'll see this in week 2 on September 7th when Colorado comes to Nebraska. The Colorado year 2 feel under Deion Sanders, now we know a little bit more about what they have in the skill position, the guys that you can expect stuff out of, and then the unknowns. This Colorado team, I think many people would say, will be better than a 4-win team. Where do you think they ultimately, maybe where that ultimate ceiling is in 2024 for year 2 under Coach Prime?
Yeah, so the ceiling, in my opinion, is still around maybe 7-5. That would still be tremendous progress, though, when you consider a 1-win season the year before Deion gets there. They upped that to 4 a year ago, and they even get to a bowl game. Mm-hmm. That's a success in my mind, because you're transitioning into a tougher league, or a league where every week it's going to be a challenge. I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, the Big 12 is definitely tougher than the Pac-12 was last year, because the Pac-12 was pretty good last year. But it's a situation where every week this Colorado team is going to be tested, including in the opener against an FCS team in North Dakota State that's really good at that level. So the question for me with Colorado is whether or not they have the depth on the lines of scrimmage, kind of the same question we had with them a year ago, whether they have the depth, whether through the portal you can build a roster that has the depth on the line of scrimmage to survive a tough 12-game schedule. So, yeah, you mentioned the skill talent. That's fine. The quarterback play is more than fine. But the lines of scrimmage are where the questions still are with Colorado. So I think there's this idea, this hype around Colorado that suggests, they could break through and win 10 games. They might have the number 1 overall draft pick, and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter is right there, and that's all true. But at the end of the day, you got to have 8-9 guys on both lines of scrimmage who are Big 12 caliber, and I'm not sure they do yet.
It's David Cobb, national writer for the college football scene for CBS Sports. Awesome stuff, David. Really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we can talk to you throughout the season, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Good stuff there from David Cobb. Colorado, and speaking of CBS Sports, they have Colorado with the most difficult schedule out of any Big 12 team. And one of the highlights of that schedule in the breakdown of it is, if there's to be an FCS team that is going to still get a lot of high marks, obviously Colorado has that with North Dakota State, and then, as it is called, a revamped Nebraska squad, are all losable non-conference games.
I love schedule talk. That's why Herb Street thinks Rutgers is a dark horse, because of their schedule. Mm-hmm. I love schedule talk.
Yes, I believe Rutgers had the easiest
I love teams
schedule.
that win the games they play, and they beat teams that end up being in bowl games.
That is true.
Nebraska could win 8 games, and if they only 7 of them are against teams that don't go to a bowl game, they need to beat teams that go to a bowl game.
True.
Back to Florida.
Or win winnable games.
Back to Florida. Well, they've kind of started to do that.
A little better.
So last year they turned the corner where teams that live in their neighborhood, they were starting to beat up.
Yep.
It's when they go out of their neighborhood and they have to go to that second gated community that can they do any damage in that second gated community.
I like that. The gated community.
We had to get a lot of gated communities there in Florida. So speaking of Florida, so could there be a Nebraska connection that saves Billy Napier's job?
Who?
So Ben Sass, former Nebraska congressman, He has stepped down as the University of Florida president to take care of his wife. And they've named an interim president. An interim guy ain't going to make a big decision. Huge decision with football coach at Florida. So Billy Napier actually could be safe if he goes 7-6. Even if he goes 6-7. Now, if he goes like 4-7, he gone.
Mm-hmm.
He gone. They like a fat kid in dodgeball. He out. But think about this. More than likely at Florida, they will not swear in a new president until 2025, and that will be well past the time to make a decision on a football coach. So if Billy Napier gets to 6 again, now if he gets to 7, he's safe.
Yeah.
And that might sound crazy, but that would be his first winning season in 3. But because Ben Sass is stepping down and there's an interim person in that chair, that person is not going to make a decision, that big of a decision, ahead of a new president. So it may actually benefit Billy Napier.
That is a good call. Now, and speaking of Florida, we're going to be talking to Brian Edwards and his favorite topic of the Billy Napier hot seat. But, okay, with all of that aside, if they were to go 6-6, do you think that is good enough for Billy Napier to get the nod?
Well, they'd be in a bowl game.
Be in a bowl game. You have a very tough schedule.
6-7 may keep him.
Okay.
But 4 wins gone, 5 would be pretty tough.
Yeah. That's a good point, though, about the decision makers and who would say, you know what, why don't you let the next guy, the permanent guy that you're bringing in here, make that decision and not the interim guy. That's a fair point. I for a moment anyway, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this just because I know he's your favorite quarterback to talk about when it comes to the NFL league. But I got a question involving one Karen Rodgers about the happenings.
Did you call him Karen?
Did you?
I did call him Karen.
Did you call him Karen?
Yeah, finally going off the top rope.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's still Aaron Rodgers. I still see him in green, just not having the gold in there too. But no, he's gotten very Karen-like. I got a question about just the whole Aaron Rodgers in New York and the stuff that's going on with him and some key teammates of his. We mentioned Brian Edwards. We will get some of his thoughts, some more college football conversation on some win totals as well, and some more of your thoughts. Some people weighing in on the rushing element for Nebraska football that we'll get to as well as we continue. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley here on 1620 The Zone. So we won't get this during Hard Knocks when it comes to the new shiny toy of Aaron Rodgers in a new uniform and the hype machine. And look, he couldn't control what happened in that game against the Bills 4 plays in. But the Aaron Rodgers effect in New York, this would be a question probably better suited for the New York media or the Jets beat writers who covered this. But everything that Aaron Rodgers does is always going to get attention because he is still considered to be one of the very best quarterbacks active in the NFL. Now you've got the story of, and you see the video of it where he and Garrett Wilson are very animated, getting into a little bit of heated discussion. This has happened more than a few times.
Mm-hmm.
There's been reports that it's happened with other skill position players with Aaron Rodgers. This is maybe I'm
trade him.
He could wind up with the Vikings. He could just take the complete Brett Favre path. This is where I get to. I gotta check it at the door of my angst towards Aaron Rodgers just because of how many times he victimized the Chicago Bears for so long, and the reality that Aaron Rodgers, as good as he is as a quarterback, is still just a problem in the locker room and on the field because he walks in with that entitlement, which to a degree he's deserved, of the type of player he is. Also, what the coaching staff and the front office are giving him full range to do. But I get the feeling for a guy that wasn't around and a guy that even on the sideline would criticize the, as he called it, the noise in the building, a guy that also doesn't always follow his criticism with his own action and is now very, and again, these guys are just chalking it up to being very competitive and one, and it probably could be that. But I really do wonder if there is significant Aaron Rodgers fatigue amongst the roster, not even amongst the fan base or the people who cover them of, oh my gosh, he's yelling at a receiver. We got to talk about this. But I do wonder with just his, hey, you guys know what I've done. Yeah, you have, but you haven't done it with the Jets. Again, not your fault that you ruptured your Achilles, but I just, the battles that he's picking, I am curious if this thing doesn't get off to a good start, how quickly this thing could go very Jets-like, even with Aaron Rodgers at the helm.
Problem is who they have coaching him.
Well, yes, Robert Saleh doesn't help.
No, they need a stronger person in that seat, and you wouldn't have as much of this get out. That's where you start with. But if they don't get off to a good start, and hey, that division's tough.
Yep.
I mean, the Bills aren't going anywhere as long as Josh Allen's a quarterback, and they've lost a lot. The Dolphins are the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel is still orchestrating that offense. The Jets have a good roster. But if they do get off to a rough start, it won't be an Aaron Rodgers thing. It'll be Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh will have to go. Here's the question about Aaron Rodgers being in New York City is C.J. Stroud brought this up, and it shows you the difference between people that like to win and people that are fanatics about personal awards. When he said he'd rather have an Eli Manning career than Aaron Rodgers. Look at Eli Manning. So Eli Manning's career numbers aren't GOAT status, but he's got 2 rings. Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Going to make the Hall of Fame. He has become more personable post-playing.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy that happens to Eli Manning and a Tom Brady. Wonder if it'll happen to an Aaron Rodgers. But any Giants fan loves Eli Manning.
Yep.
Loves Eli Manning. The one thing about Aaron Rodgers is, and this, like, Giants fans don't even hesitate. Love Eli Manning. How much do you think Aaron Rodgers has that kind of support over a Packer fan base? I'm not going to bring in the Jets because he just hasn't played for him yet.
Yeah.
But like the Packer fan base. And remember, he's got a Super Bowl ring. Whose career would you rather have? Eli Manning's on the field and from the fan base, or Aaron Rodgers?
Who had more rings? Eli Manning. Give me Eli Manning as well. And the question you ask about Packer fans around Aaron Rodgers, now this is where people are really going to get pissed off at me because I'm trying to speak on behalf of a Packer fan when I'm the furthest thing from it.
They look to you.
But I remember, and I talked to some of you listening, I have a couple of very good friends that are huge Packer fans.
Say it. Tell Joey.
Actually, Joey, he would chime in on this every now and then too. But there were a lot of you and a lot of my friends that were Packer fans that those last 2 years of Aaron Rodgers and the back and forth and the kind of trying to hold the organization hostage, the drama that gave him the nickname Karen Rodgers was very taxing on them, where I was surprised by this initially on how many fans that I knew that were diehard Green Bay fans that were ready to move on from him even before that last year. And remember, coming off an MVP season, Gary, and you still have some of your most diehard fans of that organization are like, yeah, cool, but the key number there, 1, that talent and the way that organization, for a decent amount of Aaron Rodgers' career, built that organization, that you got one out of it, I think is largely disappointing to that fan base. And then came the drama there towards the end where you were ready to move on. So if that's your lasting image of him as a fan, again, there might be Packer fans that love him, and I might be speaking out of turn on this one because I hate him because I'm a Bears fan. But I think
the football player, Aaron Rodgers, the healthy football player, I would take.
Yeah.
I would take the healthy football player of Aaron Rodgers over Eli Manning. Here's how I look at this. What is non-football, what is Eli Manning known for?
Non-football, what is Eli Manning known for? Being Peyton's brother.
Manning cast doesn't count here.
No, that's a good point. Aaron Rodgers, non-football, is known for what?
Ayahuasca.
Drama.
All the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how I also look at this. And this becomes a personal thing of if you like a guy or not. Eli Manning's last year with the Giants didn't go so well. Remember, he got benched?
Mm-hmm.
He was still extremely popular in the locker room.
Yep.
What if Aaron Rodgers got benched this year with the Jets?
He'd go scorched earth.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't have – I feel very confident in saying that you would not have major support within that locker room.
One of the most surprising things in Aaron Rodgers' career is that he only has one Super Bowl.
Exactly. That's
He's
absolutely.
had some incredible years with some really good teams that haven't been able to get out of Lambeau.
Mm-hmm.
He's only been in one Super Bowl.
Now, he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
But his career, it's going to be one of those things where you go, man, I kind of thought you would, because now you compare it to like a Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. And
do we get an option? Can we take him?
Well, and it's no comparison right now because he's lapped them twice on Super Bowl rings. Unless you believe that Aaron Rodgers is still going to get another Super Bowl ring with the Jets or anybody else he winds up with again,
Pat's backup.
The clock is ticking mightily for Aaron Rodgers. I'm always going to want the guy that got you more rings, that maximize the talent, and because it's a good conversation to have about the individual talent of Aaron Rodgers compared to the individual talent of Eli Manning. I don't think anybody is going to debate that because Aaron Rodgers, even still to this very day, at 100% healthy, is going to make throws that nobody else in the league can make. That's one of the things about you can love him or you can hate him, but you can watch him when he's at his peak and still be in awe of the things that he does. Eli never really gave you those moments, but and I have this on good authority from Dave Tollison, who was the guy that even when I tried to downplay Eli Manning, I always had to ask him, okay, what is Eli? You know, it was similar to the Jay Cutler sideline effect where, it always looks like he's pouting or he's disinterested. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And in a lot of ways, also talking to Zach Miller, heard similar things about Jay Cutler, of like, actually, he's a pretty good team dude. So what you see on the sidelines, don't always let that formulate your opinion on him.
Now remember, Eli Manning rolled both legendary Packer quarterbacks on his way to those rings.
Yep, and the teams he beat too.
He took down Favre, Rodgers, and Brady.
Yep. And that legendary Patriot team that was making a run at the Dolphins, undefeated season, he did that. And the thing that's important about the Eli Manning having 2 rings, look, Trent Dilfer has a ring, okay? The important thing about Eli having 2 is he made plays in those games. That's the thing. You could ride a hot defense or a workhorse running back or just a fluke of a game where you just so happen to be the quarterback of that team and have the 2 rings to show for it. But he actually did something about that. He did make the plays. I mean, the David Tyree catch, the catch is amazing, but Eli keeping that play alive was the thing that probably doesn't get talked about enough with that catch and to extend that drive. So I've come around probably more on Eli. I didn't mean to make this an Eli part, but between what Dave Tollefson would always tell me about him when Eli was still playing, and then now we have seen it with our own eyes post football career, I don't even think it's a comparison as far as likability. And I don't know if Aaron. Well, here's the thing: we know Aaron Rodgers doesn't care. He didn't care where you are. I think. I'm not saying Eli does, but I think what you see from Aaron Rodgers is what you're going to get even post football life. I don't think all of a sudden, like when Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay, you're like, damn, this is a fun Tom. Tom's getting into beer chugging contests. He's drinking tequila on a boat parade. Like this is fun Tom. I don't think all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers is going to get away from the crap and all of a sudden just become a very likable dude.
No.
He will never be for me, but I mean, I have an agenda there as well. But I don't know. I get the feeling there's something to keep your eye on, especially, and you bring up a very good element of this conversation, and that is Robert Saleh. If you've got strong leadership at the top with that coaching staff, and even to an extent in your front office, your GM, you probably don't worry about this as much. But I feel like Aaron Rodgers is every bit of a coach, or at least in his mind, a coach, as Robert Saleh when it comes to saying things that he wants to say. And if Robert says, hey, Coach Saleh comes in and says, Aaron, yeah, let's not go there when you talk to the media today. I think Aaron Rodgers like, yeah, I got you. No. Like, well, if it's on my mind, I'm going to say it.
They have a good roster. I mean, they're definitely a playoff team. Amazing Daniel brings at this point, which would be just epic. Adrian Martinez replacing Aaron Rodgers on Scott Frost's old team would be the most amazing thing that could happen.
That's the winner for the day.
Would that break Husker Twitter?
It really would.
Should let him come over and get any stress ball he wants. You win.
God. We're going to wrap things up. Brian Edwards, our Vegas Insider, joins us next. Brian Edwards joins us on a Thursday. Going to talk some college football here. Going to talk some UFC. And also, just to let you know, we did talk a little bit about Billy Napier's job status with a guest earlier. And we said 7-5 safe, 5-7 tough, 6-6 be what happens to Napier and the Gator head coaching position.
Wait, who was it that was your guest?
David Cobb of CBS Sports.
And what did he say about 5-7?
Well, we were just talking more about the Florida season more than anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said he had a comment on his job status at 5-7, and if it's not anything but pink slip. I had
There's a gray area though.
Hey, an entirely different question. That opener with Miami and Florida, who's that game more important to? Take off your, take off the Gator uniform. Who's that game more important to?
I think it's equally important.
Okay.
Is that fair?
No, that is fair because, there's a lot of, you've talked about it, there's a lot of excitement building for Miami, but there's a hesitation of Cristobal. And then we already know the Florida situation. It just is, that is going to be one of the more fascinating early season games because of how much is on the line for both programs. Because if Miami loses, you're like, yeah, I wasn't believing in them. If Florida wins, you at least go, okay, that might help them get to at least 6 to a bowl game to keep Napier alive. I think it's got to be near the top of the most fascinating non-con games.
Yeah, I agree. And, Miami, now they get it, a 3 week G5 scenario afterward, which makes it where they should be 4-0 if they win, going into a Friday night showcase game at home against what I think is going to be a pretty good Virginia Tech team playing on a short week in the South Florida, even if it is at night, late September in Miami. It's brutal. So and then they go at Cal, and then an open date ahead of at Louisville, talking about the Canes there. So, yeah, I think it's equally important, and that's to say very, very, very important for both coaches.
I feel like I know the answer to this, but if they do finish 6-6, they do have a pretty difficult schedule, and Napier keeps his job. Are you
not on board with that?
Okay.
Not at all. Not on board with that at all. Okay. I mean, it would just depend. I mean, if all the losses are competitive, if Georgia and if we lose one possession game, Georgia and FSU, then maybe I could come around on that.
Okay.
You got to get one of those at least. I mean, you have to beat Ole Miss or LSU, if not both, at home late in the year. In my opinion, I mean, you can't just be losing. 6 in a row to LSU. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Hey, want to get into one of the better group of 5 stories, and when it comes to also off-season coaching hires, getting John Summerall in there from Troy. You look at Tulane sitting at 7.5 right now. Some good offense, got a good running back, rookie of the year, I should say, coming back as well. On Tulane at 7.5, are you looking over?
I am, man. I love John Summerall, 23-5 at Troy, and it's not like Troy was, Troy's traditionally been, really good since coming into the FBS and the Sun Belt, but they were not doing well before Summerall got there, and he turned that thing around, snapping the finger. I love Willie Fritz, but I love John Summerall. There is no downgrade in the coaching department, in my opinion, whatsoever. And a team that went 11-3. Last year, brings back 8 starters on offense, 7 on D. But, obviously don't have Michael Pratt anymore, but they do have Ty Thompson, who was a 4-star out of high school, 2 years at Oregon, just mostly garbage time behind Bo Nix, but very talented. And then they also still have Kai Horton, who started 3 games at quarterback last year when Pratt was injured. And up until he committed 2 turnovers in the Ole Miss game, they were winning that whole game pretty much. And, he was playing well. So I think they're too deep at quarterback. They've got a really good running back in Hughes, 1,378 rushing yards. Last year, they got a 4-star transfer receiver in Mario Williams, who started 14 games at USC for the Trojans. The last couple of years, also got a transfer wide receiver from Bama.
and top 3 tacklers back on a defense that only gave up 20.5 points per game. You look at the schedule, I've only got them losing at Oklahoma. Now, they'll be an underdog at home to K-State in week 2, but I'm not conceding defeat there. It's probably a loss. But then every other game, I think they should be favored. I mean, if they're favored at home to Memphis, which is the regular season finale, could decide the AAC. Now, the road game at Louisiana, that one could be tough, but, I think they're going to get that one. I basically have them 9-1 with 2 swing games being K-State and Memphis, which if they split, I mean, they go 10-2, and if they split that and lose Lafayette, then they're still 9-3. The over is 7.5 minus 152 at FanDuel, or Circa's got it at 8 at a more reasonable minus 120 price. So yeah, I like Tulane to go over. I don't think they, take a step back going from Fritz to Sumrall.
Hey, let's talk Texas State. I love what you're thinking. We are on the same page because I'm looking at Texas State, who last year had a really good year. They got a transfer from James Madison. I like their head coach. Their win total at Texas State is 8.5. They got a favorable conference schedule. I think this is even better because that price is at plus money.
Yep. Over 8.5 plus 118 at FanDuel. They brought in 31 transfers, 14 Power 4. G.J. Kinney. Okay, so before he got there, they had won 3 games or less every year from 2015 to 2020. In 21 and 22, they went 4-8. And then he turns it around, immediately. They go 8-5. And they go 8-5 by going 1-3 in one possession games. They won by double digits at Baylor. They lost a game to UTSA and at Louisiana. They're only they lost to Troy, lost a one possession game at Coastal. But this is a good team, and they've upgraded a quarterback. And TJ Finley played good at quarterback for them last year, but they got, like you mentioned, Jordan McLeod, first team all Sun Belt from James Madison, 35-10 TDI&T ratio last year, threw for 3,657 yards. They've got a stud running back in Mahdi, who ran for 1,331 yards last year, 10 touchdowns, 6.0 yards per carry average. They've got their best receiver back, Joey Hobart, 76 catches, 895 yards, 8 touchdowns. They're going to be very good offensively. You look at the schedule. I've got them swing games at home to UTSA and Arizona State. They get a home game with Arizona State, and that's a short week game on a Thursday. And really, I think they should be favored the rest of the way, including Louisiana at home. So I don't have them losing definitively any games. I mean, obviously they could lose to UTSA and Arizona State. Maybe at South Alabama could be tricky. I don't think at Troy is going to be hard. Troy only has 2 starters back on each side of the ball, had massive exits in the portal. I think this team probably wins 9, if not 10 games. G.J. Kinney, hell of a quarterback at Tulsa, not too terribly long ago. And he's been a heck of a coach so far.
B, before we let you go, UFC on ABC weekend. You got a couple fights that you really like in this one?
Yeah, the heavyweight fight, Shamil Ghazi by KO over Dontel Mays, plus 200. And then I'll go in the co-main, Shara Magomedov to win by KO is plus 110. And, I'm probably going to be tempted to take Sandhagen, but Nurmagomedov is such a wrestler. I don't know. Sandhagen around plus 300 is kind of tempting. Maybe you can get a knockout early, but those Nurmagomedovs don't lose very often.
They do not. Hey, have a great weekend. You know what? We are, after the next time we talk to you, will be a Saturday closer to college football and a Thursday night closer to the Ravens and the Chiefs.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a great weekend.
That's Brian Edwards.
Good stuff there. Hey, real quickly, we said we would update you on anything with tree debris drop-off sites and things you need to know from the storms. There are 5 locations now that from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that's Levi Carter Park, Toll Park out there on 90th and Center, 156th and F Street's football field, Hefflinger Park, and Greenbrier Park, which is in Elkhorn. The Greenbrier Park will not open until 11 a.m., but the rest of those locations, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily to drop off tree debris and any of the damages around the area with that tree debris drop-off sites. Make sure you utilize those. And then, again, with the latest on the OPD power situation, well, we're at right around 100,000 still without power. And Gary, we got an update?
Let's check here.
Yeah.
So they're down to 110,000 in
Good.
Douglas County. Let me just go into my neighborhood. Oh,
man, I was hoping before we got off the air.
On the map here, I am in the dark purple.
I was hoping that you were maybe next in queue, like you're on, like when someone gets seated and then you ask, oh, where are we at and like you were, oh, you guys are actually next. That's what I was hoping for.
I got a couple hotels in my neighborhood. I might be spending the night at a hotel. You guys want to come over, go swimming?
Ooh.
Get a free breakfast in the morning?
Which hotel? Because
I heard about the breakfast.
The breakfast,
well,
it all depends on that.
We got a Courtyard. We got a Hilton.
Oh, Courtyard's good.
Yeah.
We got some good breakfast there. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Hey, big thanks to our guests.
How about the 2 people in Richardson County that don't have power?
The 2,
like, shouldn't they just list their house?
If you don't have it now and you're the only 2 people, you're never going to have it.
4 people in Dodge County. It sucks.
Appreciate our guests, Carmen DeFalco, also Steve Sipple, David Cobb, and Brian Edwards. Radio Replay has all that if you missed any of it. Tomorrow we begin our schedule preview for the 2024 Nebraska season. We're going to be talking UTEP football with their play-by-play man, also Mike Schaefer, Verz, and continuing our look around the camp. We'll do some Vikings talk tomorrow. Gary, hoping